Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this August 5th meeting of the Blackstone-Millville Regional School District Committee to order and ask you to rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We will start with our introduction of members. We'll start with Carrie.
Carrie Gaudette from Blackstone.
And on the computer there, we have Sarah, who is joining us via Zoom. I'm from Blackstone. I'm Jane Reggio from Millville.
Erin Monaco, Millville.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone.
And Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
Welcome. In your packets and in front of us, we have warrants and minutes of the meeting from July 12th. We received via email. I'll entertain a motion to approve those as a consent agenda A.
So moved.
Moved by Tammy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Carrie. Any discussion? All those in favor of consent agenda A, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And opposition, thank you, Sarah. Okay. At this time, we'll open our meeting to any public forum, if anybody has anything they'd like to address with the committee or to the committee.
I don't know if this is of any impact, but
You get to move to the front.
I don't know if this is of any impact, but I just came as a parent of a daughter who will be a kindergartner next year.
Okay.
And worried about some of the cons of mask mandates, but I know that the state will have probably final jurisdiction over what happens. I don't know. I have concerns regarding that.
Okay. And we do have it on our agenda this evening, but I am curious, what is your,
So I'm worried about the social and language development impacts, especially in the younger grades, of not being able to see their peers' reactions. With social interactions and language development at those ages. My son's in preschool, and for most of the year, the students were not required to be masked, however the teachers were. And several of the teachers reported it was their toughest social emotional disciplinary year they've ever had. And due to some of that inability to read and see their teacher and see the emotions, see the faces. And I'm also a teacher, so I think there's a tremendous amount that goes on between the human side of teaching and not just a rote learning aspect where you're connecting with students, and it I think can be a barrier for that. I'm concerned about the sanitization aspects of it, of a young student being in that the entire day, and any health liabilities associated with that. People have tested these masks and seen bacterial and fungal contamination. Especially little kids don't have the same ability to keep a mask clean as say we would. As well as the time on learning and the time spent enforcing masking versus the flow of a classroom, I think it was definitely an impact at the high school level, and all the respect in the world to elementary teachers. And just the overall, walking into the building and the feel of that for a new student entering public school. I'm hopeful that it'll be optional, but I don't know if my presence has any impact at all. But I didn't want to say I didn't at least try and.
May I just ask your name?
Sure, Ryan Whetstone.
Thank you. Say the last name.
Whetstone.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just like to put those in the notes for future reference.
Sure. I also, I'm an avid reader. I read, I'm deep into the CDC data. I read a ton, and I'm very discerning as to what sorts of sources I find, to be worthwhile. And I haven't seen convincing evidence that there is a big need in an elementary setting to prevent transmission of adult to kid to adult or kid to kid. In the peak of the pandemic in New York City, extensive contact tracing was done in their state-provided daycares for essential workers, and they really were not able to find concrete evidence of transmission from adult to kid to adult. And seeing as our adults have had every opportunity to be vaccinated, and, I think the state is leaning towards K through 6 potentially still being masked as they are unable to be vaccinated so far. I don't think that matches with the risk of health impacts to the children, and I don't think it matches with the real world risk of transmission between adults and children in a setting like a school.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, probably more so than we'll be able to say, but appreciate your willingness to come forward and talk to us about that. You'll hear a lot. All right, school committee items. The first one on our agenda is to try to set up a joint meeting with our towns. We have a few items that are coming up. One, of course, is the item that we'll hear about later in terms of the high school and facility issues, and capital plans that may need to come before our capital planning, Sarah. And also just to kind of have an opportunity before school starts to bring the groups together and talk about where we are with the change of schooling for elementary and plans to get students back and forth to school and what that has meant in terms of roads and so forth and so on. So I thought that it might be helpful, and Dr. DeFalco and I have talked about it a little bit, but to have we were going to try to do them quarterly, and we've gotten away from it a little bit, but maybe it's time to do that again, and ideally before school starts. So I don't know.
That's a tight timeline.
Yes, it is. So might had August 17th. But why did we have that? That might be the Blackstone next town meeting.
Selectmen meeting?
Selectmen meeting, yes.
It is the 20, that is the,
Yeah. Jane, if we take our phone out right now, does that still fall under, you can,
Yes,
oh, wait.
yes, it falls under. And I'm simply checking calendar. But if somebody wants to see if I used it for other things.
yes, I think it's the 17th is the next.
What's the date? I mean,
That's
what's
it,
the day of
Tuesday.
Tuesday is the Blackstone Board of Selectmen, so maybe, oh, good lord.
So the 18th, I think we had just heard from Matt to reschedule our capital meeting.
Oh, okay.
Now, would that be a good date to ask them to come? Because Greg
One-
would be here?
And, well, one of the thoughts was too, to invite the capital, or members of the capital
Committees
planning.
from the
That's a
planning
Wednesday.
committee.
It'd be good to have them around the table
Yeah.
too,
That might make it easier for us to make it.
What time is that meeting?
5:30.
5:30?
5:30.
So could we do 7? Is that too long for those of you who will be here as of 5:30?
Doesn't Greg have a commute?
Yeah, Greg Smalley comes to every meeting, so
I would say
maybe
just,
make it at 5:30?
Yeah.
Or maybe a 6 o'clock and that
Sure.
could be our capital meeting with the two towns.
Was there anything on the agenda for that meeting, though? 'Cause I know that.
It's a continuous conversation about facilities, so I think being that that's part of what you're saying we're going to talk to them about, I think the future
Yes and no, it
facilities-
is.
It's more to
Not the
update them,
long-term
not to
plan,
have them in the-
Asbestos stuff. The stuff in here.
oh, there's
Yeah.
more.
Yes.
Mm.
Specifically the high school.
I mean, I think it would be
Remediation.
good to use that as a tentative date until we check with Matt if he thinks it needs to be extended.
Sure, I'm sure that we can be
Yep.
flexible in doing that,
Yep.
absolutely, yeah.
I'm a maybe for that night. It's Alexa's birthday.
And then invite the towns. I think that's a great
Well, I know
idea.
that the Board of
This-
I know.
Selectmen members have asked them not to go so early, so I know 5:30 is not a good time for many of them, but maybe you could start your meeting and.
Could you clarify which boards or committees you would invite to that meeting from the town?
In our joint school committee town meetings, we have invited, of course, the school committee,
Finance committee.
the finance committees, and the members of the Board of Selectmen, but we discussed for this particular purpose to invite anybody from the capital planning
Okay.
committees as well.
That's what I mean, I know you, that's what I would think we would have to do to make it beneficial.
And the town administrators.
Yeah.
So we can put out a message to all of these individuals for an 8/18 at 6 PM meeting here. Would that work?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great. Everyone here is okay with that? We had 2 people join us.
I may not be able to attend that,
Okay.
like, it is Alexa's birthday and she's leaving the following week, so we'll
So
play
there
it by
would be more
ear.
important things?
It depends if she ditches me first.
Oh!
It's always a possibility, right, that that happens.
Please do not ditch your mother. You should never ditch your mother. Amanda, do you want to, and Tim, do you guys want to introduce yourselves? 'Cause I know
Yes,
you
I'm
joined
sorry.
us.
Amanda Gilmain from Millville.
Tim Howell from Blackstone.
And we'll officially get you on the record of being at the meeting. All right, so we'll let everybody hold that.
Want to hear
and-
what that final decision was on the, are we combining the capital planning meeting with the joint meeting?
I think your capital planning meeting will start at 5:30, and then we'll ask the joint meeting to join in at 6 o'clock.
Okay, good.
Does that work?
Sounds good.
Does
Yep.
that work, Sarah? Yeah, okay. Okay. And then in our June meeting, we did our annual evaluation process of the superintendent. And based upon that evaluation, it is the recommendation of the school committee to offer Dr. DeFalco a contract that would extend to, for the next 5 years, but for next year's contract, to have a 2% salary increase. And in addition to increase his non-receipted expenses, the expenses for technology and travel, to $680 per month. And also in his contract is an opportunity to offer merit increase. And so would like to propose a $1,600 merit increase based on the evaluation for last year. And that does not equate to an increase in his annual salary base. It is simply a merit increase for last year. So I would entertain a motion to approve those items.
I so
that we
motion.
can- Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Gotta wait for the Sarah. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I will draw up the contract and offer it to Dr. DeFalco.
Thank you. Happy to continue doing the work.
Thank you. And on that note,
We'll keep doing
do
the work. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see all of you. A few things under my report this evening, and I'm also going to be doing the report of the business office as well. So we'll just kind of flow right through the next piece of the agenda. But we're going to have some discussion this evening about reviewing our COVID-19 handbook. So I'm happy to have parents here who had a chance to speak to us earlier. So thank you for that, Brian. And talk a little bit about recommendations of our current policies outlined in our COVID-19 handbook. And actually, if Karen, if you wouldn't mind joining us up front. As you can imagine, Karen's been very busy with us, looking through all kinds of data and information, and on the phone with us with the Board of Health, and trying to figure out what the kind of best next steps are for us. And I guess I want to open with a few things. In your on your seat this evening, it was not in your initial packet because we were waiting for our meeting with the local boards of health to kind of tease out our next steps with our plan here before bringing anything forward to the committee, and we couldn't get that taken care of until this morning. So I apologize for not having it in your packet in advance, but I did think it would be critically important to have their opinion on our next steps as a school system. And so what you will see before you is really quite simple. There's only a couple of pieces that are in this evening's updates. We did not go through the whole handbook and make all the changes and bring the whole handbook forward to go back and forth and flip through all the different pages and such. Instead, we just brought forward what we thought, at least for now, are kind of the big pieces on everybody's mind. So learning models, just to make sure we're all on the same page. We are recommending that there is all in-person, full-time, 5 days, no hybrid, no full remote, but back full in-person and back to the business of school. The other area is masking, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the third is distancing. And so while we are trying to get back to, I don't want to say back to normal, because I actually think we want to do things better than how we were doing them before the pandemic. We've learned a lot of valuable lessons through that work. We are trying to keep a couple of the safety provisions in place. So we're looking at keeping our classrooms, the desks at 3 feet for now, and in the cafeteria, the separation between students at 3 feet for now. So not going back to 6 feet or 4 feet and having 4 or 5 lunches and everybody having lunch in different places. And we're not trying to do all of that, but just kind of roll the mitigation efforts back somewhat, so that we still have the kids together. They're in class. It's a full classroom, but we're trying to keep the desks with a little bit of separation for now, hoping that we can obviously continue to roll those mitigation efforts back. And probably the most pressing one, and the one that's probably on the minds of most individuals, was around masking. And I will say, when we saw the governor and commissioner's recommendations last Friday that were released, that was essentially stated in a way that outlines strongly recommending masks but not requiring masks. My first gut response was, okay, well, that's kind of is what it is, and that'll be what we do. I will tell you, I took a very hard left turn with that when I looked at our vaccination rates, particularly of our students that are eligible and of our community 50 years or younger, 50 years old or younger. And I know, Karen, you have all the numbers in front of you. You can share those. That became very concerning for me because the vaccination rates of our students that are eligible are between 30 and 35%. That's really low. That's a third of students that are eligible to be vaccinated that are actually vaccinated. And then we have, of course, our preschool through grade 5 and 6, depending on when you turn 12, that are not vaccinated at all. And we understand, listen, this isn't a judgment, it's just, these are just the facts. So I'm being very transparent about the thought process we went through with this. So we have about a third of the students who are eligible actually vaccinated, the rest are not. And then you look at the parent or the adult vaccination rates in our community. I shouldn't say parent, I should say adult. And those, again, range somewhere around 40%. But Karen, do you want to share those numbers?
Yeah, this is broken up by town. For Blackstone, for 12 to 15-year-old, it's 34% are fully vaccinated. Millville is at 30% in that age group. The 16 to 19 is higher, but in that group, I wish they had broken it down to 16 and 17 and 18 and 19, because a lot of the 18 and 19-year-olds, if they are continuing on to college, they may be required to get the vaccine. So that is going to bump up that number sort of artificially for what we're seeing in the public school. But for 16 and 19, fully vaccinated in Blackstone is 48. In Millville, it's 52. For the adults, it's broken down from 20 to 29 years old, and Blackstone is 40, Millville is 36, and 30 to 49, Blackstone is 54, and Millville is 40. Overall, And those are the numbers that just came out today. The state releases them on Thursdays. Overall, Blackstone has 50% of the population fully vaccinated, and Millville is at 41.
So the worry is we put 500 people back in one building with a recommended but not a required masking situation, and we could have a potential issue on our hands. So we had a conversation with the boards of health today, and we had a lengthy discussion, and it was brought to our attention that at the Blackstone meeting this week, the chair of the Blackstone Board of Health had shared some thinking around looking into and wanting to, but of course there was no formal vote. It's just a conversation at this point, but of having all of our town buildings and the visitors and employees fully masked. But that vote has not been taken yet. But I think what we are trying to avoid, and seemingly what they are trying to avoid, is having a problem and then having to respond and react to that. So what we are recommending to the school committee is that we continue with our masking for all students, staff, and visitors for now, while they're indoors only, not while they're outside, not while they're doing sports, or not while they're out at recess or any of those kinds of things. We also are waiting on guidance from the Department of Education and Department of Public Health on contact tracing, any updates on that, and quarantining. So while I will say this is news that some people might not want to hear, others are probably happy to hear. It's a lose-lose type of conversation. The big concern for me are just the vaccination rates. And so if we had more students that were eligible to be vaccinated, and if we had more of our community, I think I would be less worried. I can say that on the call with the boards of health today, there is a very similar feeling. The numbers are really low. So that's just a lot of vulnerability. So I think, when we think about our work as a school district, we are also plugged into a larger community. And I don't know any other buildings in either one of our towns that will house up to 500 people at a time. And given the vaccinations where they are, and given the health forecast of where it is, I just don't know how I make any other recommendation to the committee.
Okay, thank you. So that's the recommendation. I will not necessarily open it up to a motion. I do want to start with discussion. Clearly, we had a voice earlier, but I would like to know.
Me, I'll
Go
start.
ahead.
Go ahead and start.
ahead.
See where you go.
This pains me more than life itself right now. I totally agree with Mr. Whetstone on the development of especially our K-2 speech. I'm in the business, so, speaking to the speech pathologist, there's a lot more issues with that articulation because the kids can't see how you say the F sound, those kind of things. So I totally agree with him on that. And I think there's a lot of people out there that seem to think like we as a committee should allow choice. And I think it has to be masks or no masks. I don't think we can have parents make a choice, which would be lovely, except when someone chooses not to wear a mask, they negate the other side's choice. So I think that compromise, I don't think is really a true compromise.
And so
These numbers are alarming to me.
Agreed.
It's not a judgment. It's when we were here last year fighting the distance learning, trying to navigate our way around it. We had our teachers, we had parents saying, let's just get the vaccine and then we're going to move on. But people chose not to get the vaccine apparently, and so then we're in the same exact boat we were in last year. And distance learning, I had a kid at BVT that saw her math teacher 10 times in person. That can't happen to another group of students, which potentially is what happens when our numbers of positive cases go up. I would love to see the guidance from the various people who are going to give us guidance on the quarantine piece, because
Sure, yeah.
again, if
Look at
you
that, yeah.
chose to not get vaccinated, or you chose not to have your student vaccinated, I think, and they are positive, I think, that whole quarantine piece is, in my mind, a whole different ballgame if you made that choice. So I'm glad we're not putting outdoors on the table, like, let's keep that, leave them playing recess. I'm so stressed about this. I don't know where, I need to listen to the rest of you, because you know where I stand coming into this.
Well,
And you guys always help me see more reasonable options. But it's crazy.
So I work in an institution that is requiring vaccination of students, but not requiring vaccination of staff, and requiring masks for everybody. And it was not where I wanted to go, and I don't like teaching like this. I saw a student without a mask for the first time that I've ever met them, and didn't know who they were, because I didn't know what their face had looked like for, a year and a half. And it was lovely to see there. I mean, it was lovely. But I am not willing, as a vaccinated person, to take the risk that I could spread the disease, because the science says we're carrying it, that I could spread it to the 20 other people that are in the room who may have chosen not to get vaccinated, and I realize they chose not to, but I don't want to be the person who gives them a disease. I don't want to be the person who causes the accident. When I'm driving down the road, my biggest fear is that if I ever really hit somebody and ever really cause damage, like what that would do to my own personal psyche. And I feel the same way about I don't want to be the one, even though, and I'm going to point to Erin, although I know she was vaccinated because we pretty much went together. I don't want to be the one to give Erin that disease, to pass that on, to change her life, to impact her life. And so to me, if the numbers had told us that 80 or 90% of our community was vaccinated, and we, get that concept of herd immunity going, and, it's slight numbers, I'd have a very different thought process. Because I agree with what the gentleman said, I agree with what you said, learning is a lot better when these things aren't on our faces. But with 30%, well, with our young people not even being able to be vaccinated, and 30% and 34% of our school-age community vaccinated, I feel like I want to put the onus on the community. Get those numbers up, get them to 80%, get them to 75%. And this is a different conversation. But at 30 and 34%, I feel like we need to wear masks. Tim?
I'll start with this, in my business, we've gone back to mask. And it's not just locally in Boston, it's corporate-wide, which is around the world. International businesses as well. They're pushing back the return to work date until October, mid-October. We had a positive COVID test in our building this week. For those of you that may follow the news, may not follow the news, the current outbreak, which started in Provincetown, 80% of those people that were diagnosed with the variant D were vaccinated people who chose not to wear masks. I sympathize with parents. As a parent myself, I empathize with instructors. There is no way that we can allow students to come back to school without being masked with the vaccination numbers as low as they are. Parents have made decisions to not do what they need to do to protect their children. We as a school committee must act to protect all the children, not just the children in one home or the other. I'll also say, and I don't know where we can stand with this, but staff should be vaccinated or they shouldn't be allowed back in school. There are Supreme Court cases that have pushed, if you want a job, you have to be vaccinated. We as a school committee should issue that, and I know there's going to be pushback from the unions, but we have to protect the children.
I feel like I'm wrestling with this because the choice to not get vaccinated is a choice. And I say that as a person that had COVID and has been vaccinated. And in my family, my son, who is 15, has decided that at the moment he does not want to get vaccinated based on the lack of health risk for himself. He knows that there is a chance he may have to wear a mask. The problem I have with it is that it's punishing those of us that have chosen to be vaccinated and have done our part. Because I guess my concern is we have a lot of people that have had the choice to get vaccinated and have not. What will make them do it? Or what is the recourse there? How is it fair that I'm assuming most of us have been vaccinated here because we've had discussions about that don't relate to this. Why is it right now that we have to wear the masks and the kids have to distance? And some days I understand the math behind that and the data behind it, but I think the parents' biggest questions are, why do they have to distance and wear a mask if they're sitting at their desk? Why does my child who has chosen to be vaccinated so that we can travel, so that we can do the things we're doing while we're still sanitizing, being careful, nobody's sharing toothbrushes and all the other things we shouldn't be doing. How is that fair? And how do we deal with that pushback?
Karen can speak to this probably better than I can, but I will say, because a person is vaccinated does not mean that they're not a carrier of the disease. So you may be vaccinated and you may not get it, or you may get a lower version of it.
Mm-hmm.
You get the new Delta, or now there's a Lambda, and I can do the whole Greek alphabet if anybody wants to know. But you're still you carry it. You can still give it to the next person. So if I'm sitting next to somebody and I can give it to them, I have a responsibility, I believe, as a human being, to try to mitigate that as much as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to wear a mask so that when I breathe, those variants don't go on Aaron and Jason.
Which is true. At some point, though, I'll say, for lack of a better term at the moment, the guilt that you have expressed you would feel. Mm-hmm. It's the same principle that, okay, we have auto insurance here in Massachusetts. In Rhode Island, you don't have to have that. You can physically drive your car on the road without insurance. You can pay a fee, whatever, or just not get caught. So if you're in an accident that you've discussed,
Yeah.
and somebody in that accident
Is uninsured.
is uninsured, do you feel guilty for that?
Yes. If I
How?
cause the accident. If I cause the accident. If they cause the accident and they hit me and they're not insured, well, I don't know. But if I cause the accident, in other words, I was the person who ran into them. They're not insured, but they're on the road legally, legally with the choice that they made. But I ran into them.
But it's their choice. It's their choice to not get vaccinated, and if they choose to not get vaccinated and to not wear a mask.
Yeah.
Jane, is it just, because I thought through that.
Can I, whoops,
Oh.
sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead,
Please,
Sarah.
Sarah.
We can't see your
I was-
hand.
I was just gonna, there are people that legitimately can't get the vaccine.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So and there's no way to tell whether this person simply doesn't feel like going and getting the vaccine, or the person that medically cannot get it for whatever reason, or like a strongly held religious belief, and you're jeopardizing that person by not putting the mask on when you're under this argument.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all I had to add.
Jason, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna, we thought about that, and we thought about, so two things, from there, there's the virus scientific, the Delta variant, and carrying so much more of that virus in your throat and your nose, and all the latest research. It was an excellent piece of research that came out Monday on this. So there's like the science side, but then there's like just the school operational side. And a big worry that we have is we put 500 students, staff, everybody back in one building, everybody's mask free. You got about a third of the people vaccinated, 2/3 that are not. You got people at home, right? If you go by those numbers, half or less than half of those people are vaccinated. And all of a sudden, you've got a case, and you've got another case, and you've got another case. And I know one of the things that the Board of Health shared with me today, their big concern is outbreak. They're very concerned about that because of the low vaccination numbers in town. From a purely operational standpoint, we did away with partner teachers and Zoom learning and remotes. We cut that. What happens? If I have, pick a grade level, first grade, if we have 25, 30 kids out that are in quarantine of some sort, I can't imagine, while the commissioner is looking to provide some different types of relief around quarantining, I can't imagine there would be none. And I think we have to see that information, Tammy. I think you're right about that. But I can't imagine there'd be no quarantining, right? So even go with if it's a third or half of what it was last year. So it's 5 days, 3 days, 4 days, what have you. Who's teaching those kids? Mm-hmm. That's done. All of that remote and Zooming and all that Zooming and rooming, and we're not doing that anymore. So that's like we were really processing through as a leadership team. How do we navigate that? That's going to be a challenge even with these. So imagine we take these off, and now we've got a much bigger problem on our hands because we're not ready to pivot and do that.
Well, and I had another, I guess, piece of it that's making me lose sleep, if you will. But I look at I think middle school is really difficult. I think middle school, and I think with mental health issues, and I think it's getting more and more and more difficult in our society. And so I envisioned this school where if you were vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, because the guidelines say, but if you're not vaccinated, you have to wear one. And then you've got the mask, you've got the blue-eyed, brown-eyed situation going. You've got the, scarlet letter, if you will, or the, gold star. I would hate to have that separation of, I feel like it's either like all off or all on or all whatever, so a child who didn't make the decision to get, the parent made the decision that you're not going to get vaccinated, has to have the stigma of, well, I have to wear a mask and you don't. I think that's another piece of it too.
So,
Yeah, that would be impossible to enforce.
well, it would,
Well,
because
it would.
who would be the mask police?
Well.
So, and the teachers already have a lot on their plate. So almost with what Amanda said, she said her son is almost expecting that he would have to, but I would see that it would be something virtually impossible to say anyone unvaccinated has to have a mask on, because who would be policing that? And being all on or all off, I think, like Tammy started with, it is a decision we have to make as a committee. So kids don't feel as an outcast for the parent that makes them wear a mask, whether they're vaccinated or not, or fights and doesn't want their kid to wear a mask. And I mean, if we don't make the rule, there's too many opportunities for catastrophe.
May I ask a question, I guess probably to Karen? What's the infection rate of under 12-year-olds?
I have not seen data.
I think that's the problem for me at the elementary, because I feel like I work in a high school of 1,400 kids. We were in every day. We taught every day. Somebody was in our building. We did not have a lot of issues with mask wearing. Kids just did it. They were so happy to be in class. They were so happy with each other. However, every classroom was like the sound of a church. No one spoke. And I don't know if they thought they sounded weird with masks, but there was that social weirdness of communicating with masks. But this population under 12, to Mr. Whetstone's point, and we all know this, socially, it's just really weird at that age. And I haven't seen a lot of data on what's the risk level for that group.
I think it's being developed now. I don't, I think we will see it, having just spent a good amount of time in Florida, where there's minimal masking, and no state requirement to do so. As a matter of fact, the governor who's saying he'll never issue that, they start school next week. So I think we'll see. I think we'll probably.
But they were doing that last
They did
year.
that last year.
What?
A lot of the southern states didn't require masks last year.
Yeah, but they weren't all in. They weren't all in.
Florida last year was one of those states that carried on.
Which,
Like
what,
nothing
I mean,
happened.
no, in the very beginning, they had an issue, but I guess really, I'm very divided on the subject, but I feel like also because it's an open forum, we have to get all those questions
Yeah,
out
yep.
because parents are going to log on and go, but what about?
Yep.
And I feel like we have to discuss that.
Agreed.
And I feel like there's just so many other questions. At what point can we say no masking? Is there a percentage? I know they say 80% is herd immunity, but does that include the people that may have had COVID? How do we navigate this? I realize part of the question I want to say is how do we navigate this and make everyone happy?
But we're not going to do that.
I know.
come up with that, I'm sure.
That will not happen.
Okay, to answer Amanda's question, we're not going to make everyone happy. And we have to be the bad guys and make a decision that's going to alienate 30 to 45% of the school community. I'm friends with people that are openly questioning, can my kid go to school without a mask? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is no. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter who, when she walks out the house, she's looking for her mask to put it on because she knows that she needs a mask. Is it going to be difficult for the lower age groups? Absolutely. Is it going to be a constant reminder, slow things down? Absolutely. Do we have the data for the 6 to 12-year-olds for their disease propensity or whatever? No. And you're right, Jane, that data is being collected. However, there's also data and experimentation going on to develop a vaccine to prove that it is safe and effective for 6 to 12-year-olds. I have 2 children that want to be vaccinated and can't because their mother won't agree with it. So I understand both sides of the issue very well. I chose to get vaccinated because, the government's not going to track me any more than they already do. Eye color, hair color, you use your credit card, you drive somewhere with your cell phone, it's easy to track you. As a governing body, in my opinion, we have to make that decision, and we have to look out for those that can't make that decision for themselves. And we have to alienate that 30 to 45% of the population that doesn't want their children to wear a mask.
Question for Karen. We offered the vaccine clinics in school last year, in the spring, for high school and middle school. Is it something we can do again in the fall?
Yes, definitely. We talked about that with the Board of Health, and I'm going to be talking with the Board of Health nurse to see if we either want to run a clinic like we did, or see about having the Mass Vax Bus come. And there's actually a regional vaccine clinic on Monday, August 9th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Stacy Middle School in Milford, for anyone who is looking.
And I would call first, but I do believe Blackstone CVS is taking walk-ins.
Yeah, so that's
I
not
believe.
the availability is no longer the issue. Choice
But
is
some
the
people
issue.
may not know that. They may not.
You can, there's
Also,
signs
some people may
everywhere.
not trust the idea of a vaccination
Yeah, that's
from
the issue.
a pharmacist. I'll be honest, I never went there for a flu shot either, because I kind of thought, like, is that what they're they should be doing.
Yeah.
There's question, I feel better.
You shouldn't trust the Veterans Administration either, but there's 6 million veterans that do every day.
True.
And I'm one of them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, it's great. I mean, maybe we'll get some more people. I don't think that availability or knowing where to go is the issue. I
People
mean,
have made the
it's
choice not to get it at this point.
banners everywhere.
To my point and Amanda's
Billboards.
point, like, I wonder if we said, again, if we put it back on the hands of the community, you want to go without masks, let's get 80% of the people.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately
of the
got to be the
six- of
message.
And
of the
and
12
give
through-
opportunities.
Through
Right.
19. 12 through 19,
Right.
if the 40-year-old chooses not to, nothing.
Right.
But, 12 through 19, if we can get those numbers to 80%, it's a
Well,
different conversation.
based on what Tim had said about the staff, Jason, is that something, once it is FDA approved, that we would be considering?
We can consider it now. We can make that motion, we can do that now.
It has been passed by
okay.
Congress that you can, yep.
The Supreme Court told
Yes, I'm sorry.
Methodist Seton Hospital nurses, get vaccinated or lose your job. So that applies across the board to all employees
And
You can also ask for proof of
of vaccination.
vaccination. It's
I have to
not,
say, I strongly
Yeah.
disagree with that. I would say masks are required if you're not vaccinated, if we ever came to the point of making them optional. But I don't think it's right to require them, personally.
My body, my choice.
Well, I'm gonna stick with the three things that are here first, and then if somebody wants to make a motion to talk about staff, we can, I'm willing to entertain that, but let's stick to this piece first.
So
Yeah.
as what we have here, I make a motion to vote on this or to accept
Okay.
it
So-
as it is written with masks being required.
Okay. So all students, in person, full-time, all students, staff, and visitors masked at all time indoors, and 3 feet distance for classrooms and cafeteria or indoor spaces.
is there, when do we follow up on that, though? I guess that's my, there's nothing in here about, if vaccination rates get to 75, 80%.
Would you like to add
Put it
that?
on.
I would like to add some,
Revisit monthly, or pick
Sure.
a time.
Or do you want to put a percentage?
I,
feel qualified to answer
Yes.
that.
I disagree with the putting the percentage
Okay.
on it. Just, we're leaving out a population of people who have already, and we had to have had a good number of students who have documented cases. And I know there are parents out there who are saying, my child is covered. They're not going to get it. We've just seen in Provincetown where vaccinated individuals
Right.
are spreading it. So to put it at 75% of students are vaccinated, but 75% of students could still be the ones carrying it.
And getting it.
I agree.
Right, and then do we?
I agree.
So if you're vaccinated and you have COVID, you can go about still coming to school. But, I don't know, that threshold bothers me, but I would like to add
revisit.
something that we're going to discuss it monthly. We're going to see what numbers are trending and see.
I mean, can we just trend the schools, like trend our buildings? Does it have to be the whole community?
The CDC has Massachusetts rated as high transmission possibility with all but the 3 counties in western Massachusetts. An extreme risk of transmission in everything east of Worcester.
And then there's the 12 and
I think-
under kids
Except they
that
don't
can't
live in
even
a
get.
home to say you have to wear
Go ahead, Sarah.
That's
So
my issue.
we're able to revisit this at any point,
Any point in time, any meeting,
correct?
any meeting.
Right.
How many times
So-
did we do COVID handbook,
Every meeting.
Karen?
Right. So
Every
let's, can we, I would like
Right.
to second Tim's motion
Okay,
as read.
as read. Okay,
I just have one question.
can we?
It's
so
it's about the motion.
The motion's been made and seconded. Now, is there any
Any
discussion
discussion?
so you can ask your question?
Visitors, we did not change that policy yet. So this is reading visitors staff.
Yes.
Are we going to be
So we would let
changing?
visitors, yes.
This changes the policy,
Yep.
this motion.
So visitors PTOs, parents are allowed in our
Yep.
buildings this year.
We're trying to roll back as much as we can, and we thought that would be important to put that in place, providing the mask was in place. And that was why we were really explicit about 5 full days in person, no hybrid, no remote, everybody's in.
And if I may add down here in the bottom, when we're talking about exceptions to the policy, face shields or physical barriers may provide an alternative in some instances. So if we get to a point with the kindergartners, pre-K, what have you, and we're noticing issues, or the staff is noticing issues, then we could go to a face shield instead of having a mask, which would give you your pronunciation and your facial expressions when you're trying to teach words and consonant sounds.
And we did do that, we did purchase a whole bunch of those.
Yes.
I don't think that they do what a mask does, which is part of the problem, which is why most districts are requiring both for the groups that are spitters or there. It is what it is. Welcome to my world. The people who wear face masks also wear, the people who are wearing face shields, in my district anyway, are also wearing masks because the germs don't stop at your chin.
Can I ask about use of outdoor learning spaces? Are we going to be bringing back the tents?
Okay, can you, Sarah, hold that thought. We have a motion on the floor.
Was that part of the
So
discussion?
it's not part of this. It's not part of this in here. So let's deal with this. Does anybody have any other discussion about
Are we putting
learning?
language to just say reviewed monthly or removed?
She said, she seconded as
They
written.
seconded
As written.
as written, so no.
Okay,
So no.
so I would make a motion to add,
So you'd like to amend
Reviewed.
this to be reviewed monthly?
yes.
Would
Please.
somebody like to
Second.
accept that amendment? Okay, are you willing to accept that amendment? Are you willing to
Yes.
accept that amendment?
It was Sarah.
She seconded?
Yeah.
The original motion?
Yeah.
Oh, Sarah, are you willing to second that, where we can revisit this monthly?
Wait, repeat that for me.
There's been a request to amend the motion as written to add a line that says we will revisit these policies monthly. Are you okay with that amendment?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we're voting on the amendment only the amendment, to revisit monthly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstention. Okay, so now we are voting on the policy as written to be reviewed on a monthly basis. All those in favor of these policies say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Now, Sarah, tents.
Yes. The question about outdoor learning spaces. I mean, if they're going to be wearing the masks, but they can take them off when they're outside, I would like to see a push, an even greater push to make sure we're utilizing our outdoor spaces, and I'd like to know if our tents are coming back.
Yes, yeah, the tents are coming back, and we will absolutely make that push.
What was the
So we have a
feedback on
policy
that?
that has masks when you're inside a school building, so if you brought a mask, I'd ask that you put it on. Thank you. But Sarah, to answer your question, yes, we are
Does she
going to
have to
put the
leave the
tents back
meeting?
up and try to get people outdoors.
Great.
Does that mean you have to leave the
Thank you.
building if you don't have a mask on?
No,
Do we
it
have
just-
any?
What?
would you like one?
Sure,
Amanda?
Amanda?
we have them. Would
You
anybody
can have
else-
one too, Sarah.
Anyone
What
like
do you
one?
hand it out?
You're good.
They're handing out masks.
Oh. I'm in my car with the windows up.
With the mask on?
Okay.
The learning spaces, did we get feedback from teachers last year on that? Because I think there was some, I think there was some talk about the difficulty in transitioning from indoor to outdoor and how much loss of learning was happening in that. Do you have info? I mean, you don't need to know that now, but I think we just have to kind of figure out what makes that process more streamlined so that you're not losing, 15 minutes trying to get those first graders in and out, back and forth or something, And I think it's really hard to right when you're outside on the lawn, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, they
I
have a
think there's,
table.
I don't know, but in theory, it's a great idea until you're a teacher and you try to get your kids out there.
Well, I think
writing.
there was conversation about Chrome, like hotspots and stuff because they were using their Chromebooks
Right, but
outside.
you're on your lap, you're trying to teach a 7-year-old how to do that. I mean, I'm curious from a teacher perspective, how effective that time was outside, other
Maybe they try
than
to
to
make
have
it
a
an
mask break.
interactive lesson time. Not so much writing, maybe reading.
Or, I mean, put actual desks out there. I
Yeah,
don't know. I
or
don't know if
some-
that's I mean, that sounds
Try to
crazy,
make it a more
but.
structured space.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think,
Okay.
you know, it's like eating
Or if
on your
there's
lap,
if
not
there's
always
alternative
effective.
spaces.
Yeah.
Scott, would you like to join us at the table? You can just pull up another chair, Karen, you're good. You can stay.
Just a thought on the desk outside, if it does rain out or anything, we will get rusty.
Oh,
And chairs,
Maybe some
unless we could get
picnic tables.
some plastic.
Plastic stuff or something.
Makes sense.
maybe if we have open space and just, multiple options,
We can figure it out.
yeah. We'll be creative.
Like I said, I mean, I
Let
think
our
it may not be an
facility
issue. Let's ask the teachers on,
Be
did that
creative.
work? I mean, I don't drive by very often during
Oh,
the day
you-
to see how much
yeah,
that was
the classes
used,
did not
but.
go out a lot. They didn't. You saw more at the high school. The band was outside a lot. Mask breaks, that kind of thing. They were outside a lot. It would not be uncommon on a Thursday or Friday afternoon to see an English class or a history class outside in the Chromebooks with the kids kind of laying in the grass. Not super, but you did not usually see like a first grade math lesson outside. To what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we have to talk about, or it needs to be talked about, I just lost my train of thought, I'm so sorry. I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Something about elementary kids.
Mask breaks.
Oh, mask breaks, yes, thank you. At the end of the year, I saw lots of comments on not giving the mask breaks that were promised at the beginning of the year. So I think making sure that that's truly a thing for all teachers, is not optional, that
Yeah.
kids need a break. Oh, everybody needs a break.
Well, and to the point of the gentleman who spoke to our committee, we have to have really good plans of how what happens to the mask during the break, because there were lost masks and dropped masks, and, not everybody had the little clippies that.
But this isn't new.
No,
Last
it's
year it was
not.
new. This year,
Right.
except for the pre-K and some K, or the kids that were remote last year, this isn't new. It's not new for the teachers and new for the kids that already survived.
But I think they got
21.
so comfortable that they did no longer gave those masks breaks.
Yes, and I think that escalated when we returned fully. After April break, it seemed like maybe the teachers were like, go, 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 and it escalated in conversation, Jason, on the lack of breaks. But kids were also in school 5 days a week, so I think it just made it seem, more. But if they're scheduled, I think that would be the easiest.
I'm going to ask, I don't think I want the answer, but Tim, do you want to revisit the requirement of staff?
Do I want to revisit the
you want to
requirement of
make a-
staff being vaccinated?
Yeah?
I would love to.
Do you want to make a motion to that effect?
As to revisiting, yes, I will make a motion.
We can revisit. Do you want to make a motion that would require?
Yes, I will make a motion to require staff and teachers to be vaccinated upon returning to work in the fall.
And would anyone like to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay. So I will open it up for discussion.
So I think we need to amend it upon returning, because if we're making that, if this were to pass right now, we need to give them time. I think we would have to put,
The start of the school year?
well, no, I mean,
enough
they'd have to get vaccinated tomorrow to get 2 weeks and then, or 3 weeks and then 2, I think,
So
It
you
would
want to
be
amend
fair.
it to have one shot by the beginning of school?
I think that's fair, more fair than saying fully vaccinated by the beginning of the school year.
Okay.
Because if they didn't start that process already, then
then I will go as amended to have one shot by the beginning of the school year.
Is that what you're willing to second?
I will accept that amendment.
Okay, I will open it up for discussion. Tara, you want to?
I disagree. That's all.
Hard no here.
Hard no.
Their choice. We can't take away a choice like that. Sorry.
So we already require many vaccines to be in the social aspect, in the school setting. Kids have required vaccines before they enter kindergarten. Maybe it feels premature right now, but it's eventually going to be something that's added to that list with the MMR and the. I mean, there are certain vaccines that people have to have in our country. And if other facilities, healthcare facilities, public sectors are already doing it, then why not be a leader? Why do we have to be a follower? I guess it's my.
The staff in all of our buildings successfully got us through this pandemic when the vaccines were not even out for anyone. To tell them now that after what they just did a year and a half ago, that you have to do it, you no longer have a choice, but you have to get the vaccine. That's a hard no for me. I can't imagine saying that to the staff and retaining the number of staff we need to start the school year.
Good point.
I especially think before it is FDA approved, I feel like that's like one of the last crutches that some people are hanging on to as well. It's not even FDA approved. And I feel like until that happens, I don't feel like we can deserve an ultimatum based on the heels of exactly what you just said.
Okay.
And I think just to talk about Erin's point, those other vaccines, there aren't 3,000 strains of polio or those kind of things. That vaccine has been tried and true years. This vaccine, obviously, we already know that it does not prevent you from getting COVID. There's a lot of data. So at the end of the day, for me, it's my body, my choice, and I would not take away someone else's choice, so regardless of any science behind it, so.
So my question would be, when are we going to have more information on close contacts, contact tracing? Because when it becomes a teacher that made the choice not to get the vaccine and is out for 10 days, 5 days, or sick for a month or prolonged, where is our responsibility in keeping and protecting that teacher's job? Because I mean, there becomes a point when the kids still have to be taught. Like you already mentioned it, you have a whole class of close contacts. So when are we going to have that information?
Yeah, so just to remind folks, to staff our buildings last year because of COVID and the partner teachers and the extra custodians for the cleaning and the extra health staff, it was over $1 million in extra staffing. Through grants that we were able to attain. And certain positions, as you all know, we didn't fill. We left those open. Salary savings, all kinds of things we did creatively to make sure we could keep our schools open for kids. Exactly to your question, Erin, we were informed that within the next week or so, next week or two at the latest, we should have that information. I'm thinking it will come next week. Fingers crossed, but regarding quarantining and contact tracing and all of that.
Because that is going to have an impact on educating the kids. The teacher standing in front of the room, and obviously that could be a whole different conversation if they're vaccinated and they're still sick. But if my body, my choice, made that choice not to do it, then it's still affecting that whole room of kids.
But if I'm a vaccinated third grade teacher and I'm positive for COVID, I'm still affecting that whole room of kids.
Right.
So, I mean, it's definitely a conversation, but to play the other side of it, you can kind of go both ways with that one.
That's a whole different issue.
It is.
Yeah.
It's, we could be here all night because everything is like so reactive to the next.
Jason, who's giving that information on the contact tracing quarantine? Desi?
The Commissioner's Office in DPH. So like I had sent that attachment, I think it was last Friday. It'll be similar like that.
Okay.
With some,
That'll be interesting.
yeah, with the extra.
It'll just be a strongly recommend. They're not really gonna
You're probably right.
commit to anything
Yeah.
either.
As, the last round was. Yep. But we'll see.
The latest Jesse guidance, they say Jesse and DPH will soon release a new version of the protocols for responding to COVID-19 scenarios document. So,
Yeah.
But where does it stand right now? Like for the ESY and what were we following?
Were the same as
7 day.
What we have, yeah. we've been
7
following
day.
Yeah.
And Jill, all of those students and staff are wearing masks, correct?
correct.
Yeah, we have 400 students in our building, so programming, all the kids are wearing masks.
So close contacts are still being notified.
How many cases do we have in
We
ESY?
had one, well, it wasn't an ESY, it was with a staff member who was not vaccinated, unfortunately. That was the case that we had.
Anything at the Board of
And so to Erin's
Nothing
point,
at the
then
Boys
the
and Girls
question
Club, yeah.
becomes, do you then pay that person to be out for their quarantine time if they chose not to get vaccinated? Is that your further kind of conversation down the road?
It's a much bigger conversation, but. I
Right, but
mean,
that's the
in-
scenario, right?
If I can jump in for a second here, I understand where Erin's coming with this because you have a choice. And I understand the choice because that's what we're here for. It's a choice to choose whether we want to do this or we want to do that. However, when you're talking about public health, you have to take the public health's best interest in mind. And you can't sit back and say, okay, I've got 35 teachers out of 100 that don't want to be vaccinated. I understand that they have their choice. But at the same time, we've got 1,500 students that we have to take care of. Given one opportunity to prevent a COVID spread in a classroom that'll take out 25 kids is worth that to me. It's a hard choice. It's not an easy choice. But to me, being vaccinated means I'm helping not to spread. I could get I could get COVID. I could get the Delta or the Lambda. But the chances of me getting it are significantly less. The chances of me having a severe case of COVID are significantly less because I've chosen to be vaccinated. That's my choice. But I'm also protecting my fellow man by making that choice. Can we afford as a school system to allow our employees to endanger children by not being vaccinated?
Jason, do you know where we stand with our staff?
We have collected all of that information, and it is in payroll. I don't have the information in front of me, but
Okay.
we do have that data.
Are we higher than our town's percentage?
So
Are
for
we
those,
in
for
the
those
same range?
individuals, if you remember how we did it, because they did not have to tell us in the spring because we were taking a different approach, so it was the carrot. So we had if you remember, half a sick day we had given back to our members who went out and got their vaccines. So we collected that information that way. So we do have the numbers of staff.
I don't believe that
I don't have it in
all
front of
the
me.
people vaccinated put in for that.
They may not have. I mean, there's that issue too.
I
Yeah.
know there were some that were still questioning providing that
Want to show their card.
vaccine card or,
Yeah.
showing it to anyone.
They didn't have to give it to anybody, we said to see it to make sure that they got it, so we could credit their account, the half sick day, but there's nothing on that card as far as information.
No, those cards
Other
are-
than if you got
I
your
don't
shot.
understand that.
No, but.
They're on the black market. You can buy a card.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And then once you have a card, you get a sticker, and then you have the stickered people and the non-stickered people. It's
the booster.
your healthcare provider knows.
Yeah. that's in your
If
record.
it was entered correctly once you went for your vaccine, it is in your permanent health records.
I had to provide the information, date, vaccine, everything else, just so I could go to work.
So did I.
Otherwise.
Once they made it mandatory?
Yes. Viacom CBS made it mandatory that we report that information.
My college did not make it mandatory, but I had to show it to get in the door. So I don't know why they didn't make it mandatory, because I had to show it to get in the door. So, again, that's Rhode Island, and we won't continue to talk about Rhode Island.
All right.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Sarah, are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just trying to play this out in my head.
Okay.
Does it actually encourage staff to go get vaccinated, or does it cause us to lose staff
Yep.
and a future lawsuit?
Yeah.
And we've talked about already, you can't change track just because we're on to a different topic. We said that it's still possible to spread this virus if you're vaccinated. So the argument that, like, it weakens the argument that we should mandate vaccines for staff. So that's what I'm struggling with right now.
And we are requiring them to wear masks.
Yes, and everyone is wearing masks. So, like, I'm not certain where I'm still trying to figure it out.
You got 1 minute.
Oh, no, you don't have any minutes. You got to figure it out now.
30 seconds,
All,
Sarah.
all those
I
in,
have 30 seconds.
all those in favor of requiring vaccinations for staff, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
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 Nay.
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 Or, nay.
And I'm going to abstain.
I'm going to abstain.
You're abstaining too? But we had 3 nay, you nay, nay, nay. Where'd you hand up, Sarah?
I said nay.
Okay, so does not pass. Again, can be revisited, as we know now.
Well, and just speaking from, like, what percentage do we need to be at for, this is going to be a continuous conversation, I think. Knowing that what we've learned from the past year is it's different almost every week.
Right.
I think the other thing you have to look at is how many teachers are going to force into retirement for doing that. And are you going to be able to open school in time because you may not have enough teachers?
Yeah, I think there's a clear staffing issue.
We're not going to be the only people talking about this.
We're not.
There's absolutely
We're not
no
the
way.
only ones telling us.
Healthcare facilities are already doing it. Universities, you know, I'm sitting here saying, you're saying you had to show your card. I had to send in the front and back of a card for one of my children.
Yeah.
But
For
I am now
students,
sitting here
I haven't
going,
heard
I'm
it for
wondering if
staff.
their professors have to. I actually don't know the answer to that. It's mandatory for the students, but
Yep.
Not for staff.
Not for staff.
I don't know.
Not the staff. But again, so it's mandatory for the students, but not the staff. So as a staff person in an institution where it's mandatory for the students, I had to show a card to get into the door. If I was not vaccinated, because it's not mandated
As a
for me,
staff.
I have to get tested right then and right there, and the testing is there. I have to sit and I have to wait 15 minutes, and then I'm allowed to go to my class every 72 hours.
Now, do you have to pay for testing? How does
Do we
that
still
part
have
work?
that testing?
Do we have
Oh, yes,
testing?
we do.
That's what I
Yep.
was just gonna.
Yep, we do.
So, I mean, maybe that's, down the road, the compromise. Get vaccinated, you have to be tested.
Or show a negative test.
I mean, that's easy enough, especially if you
We
have
have
it
the
on you.
test.
72-hour test. So there are some people who are literally getting tested every 72.
Oh, okay.
Although with the sticker, which is not.
All right, athletic fees. Jeez, this is a heavy.
Next, I know. Athletic fees.
They kill me.
If you remember, last year, we adjusted the athletic fees.
Big problem, but
We reduced the athletic fees, frankly.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen. So as we're gearing up for what will be, we hope a typical athletic season, we just were making the recommendation to the committee that we go back to our typical fee schedule. We are,
Okay. So,
So moved.
moved by
Second.
Tammy, is there a second by Amanda? Is there any discussion? Can
Yes.
we survive at a lower fee?
Thank you. That was my question.
I would really, really, really like to encourage, like, any student who's ever dreamt about being on some, we know clubs, we know sports, we know music, we know it adds to the student experience. And I'm not jumping on the Sarah bandwagon and saying it should all be free. But if we can survive.
Do it, Jane.
But if we can survive at a reduced rate.
I agree.
Okay, so that's a point I hadn't considered. I do, so here's a question I have. Our children played hockey for Bellingham.
$3 million later.
Right.
Close.
So when springtime came around and my son was going to run track, I said, oh, we've met the family cap. Well, it turns out we've paid more money than any other child who played a sport for that fee, and that did not count toward our family cap.
The different district got the money.
But we even paid more than they did. Did we, the whole $350, did that go to them?
The billing.
We don't get anything from co-ops.
So we have $89,000
Unless we're the base.
in revenue.
But you can't use this year's, the
No,
buses
I'm
were all
saying we are
different.
counting on 89,000.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
all right, I was gonna
in
say,
this coming
this year.
year. So that is the question, is can we,
We can, you know that we will make work whatever you all want to make work. It's a matter of moving money. I mean, it will be a matter of, if we're going to reduce the fees or eliminate the fees, whatever we end up doing, we're just going to have to reorganize and not purchase or not hire or not do something to get the money available to do. I mean, we always find a way. It's just, it's going to have, something else will have to go.
So the user, I'm sorry, the user fee line says 72,000.
it's for, I took music and athletics.
And, okay, so if you divide that in half, like if
Be
we,
the same? Be
No,
the same?
no, we reduced, it says 72,000 from athletics,
No.
17 from
The-
music.
As a parent, do you
Oh.
pay the same for music that you pay
no, I
for
think they're
sports?
different.
Is music higher or lower?
Lower.
They were both increased by 50% when we brought them up. And I'm actually not remembering, what was it, 200 per?
200 per sport with a
200
max
per
of
sport.
600.
600, yeah.
So music was 150. So when we brought that up, it was 75, it was 70 and 100 for,
So why
And
the
then when-
difference, though? Because I would argue that the marching band meets just as much as the sports team.
If not
Maybe
more.
the
If
it
not
was
more.
based on the Music Association coming here and talking about how much parent involvement there was and how much parents already contributed to the Parents Association for music. I mean, we're probably talking 8 years ago now.
They cover the other expenses.
Right.
Out of the BMA.
They're already paying for band camp and for uniforms and so when we made that 50% increase or 100% increase, we doubled everything. They were at 75, sports were at 100, and everything was doubled.
But I am aware of a local district that has removed theirs for next year, Sarah?
A big neighbor.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I heard that too, and I would like for someone, like perhaps our athletic director, to reach out and find out how they're accomplishing that.
Who is that?
Uxbridge.
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 They removed all
And-
athletic
Yes.
fees?
If,
Wow.
if this year's ship has sailed, because I'm not going to support like cutting a teacher for this, but
Cutting
I would
teachers.
like for us to come up with a way to
Reduce.
maintain our athletic budget, but not through these exorbitant fees.
Not on
You
the
can't
back
do it
of
on the back of
family.
the families. So I would like to see that happen. Now, I know that we've had a lot on our plate,
Right.
but $200 a sport is going to discourage kids from participating.
Absolutely.
So if we were to bring it down to nothing, that's why I'm saying we're at it would be an $89,000,
Yeah, but the motion's on nothing.
but it can be amended if we. So just teetering on that, to increase participation and coming out of a year where kids may not have explored things that came into middle school or as a freshman last year that will be sophomores this year. Jason, would there be any of the ESSER money that could cover
So we've
said?
earmarked it. I mean, we've earmarked all our funds, let's face it. We've earmarked our funds.
But this
So
is the year
That
we
isn't loss
have.
of learning.
it's shift and
funds.
adjust.
Yeah, that might
Isn't
be a
that what
stretch on
ESSER's
using
for?
ESSER.
What?
Isn't ESSER loss of learning? It doesn't cover sports, does it?
Not sports
I think
or-
that would be
no.
more of a
I mean,
stretch than we'd like to make as a district.
I don't know. Well, the problem is we've allocated all that
Sure.
money.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, we've made our, so essentially, we are, or I am proposing, y'all can do what you want, but I am proposing that we look at a reduction with the hope that we encourage more people to participate and perhaps not see as huge of a difference. So in other words, if it's $200 and we get 10 people to participate, we get $2,000. But if we're $100 and we get 20 people to participate, we still get $2,000.
And we can field these teams, because we haven't
And
been
you
able
build
to
your
have
teams.
all the teams.
So, I guess I'm looking for not to go to zero, because I don't think we can afford it.
Right.
But to look for a compromising amount that, what did we do last year? We cut it in half?
I think it was in half.
It was.
And so,
Yep.
to do something of that nature that may, and to try it for a year, and it may bite us in the behind, but to see if, and then to Sarah's point, maybe look to the future to, kind of try to reduce and reduce and reduce and build a budget that allows that to happen. But our budget is built. So we have to look for, maybe half is too much, but maybe, going to 150 or going to, might encourage just a few more families to pick up the puck.
Now,
ball,
I do
whatever.
have a question with that, and I apologize for not knowing the answer to this at the moment, but say we were to have a 40% increase in school athletes, does our current budget allow for the extra purchase of equipment? Do we have that already sort of put away to say, now we need more football pads and?
So let me answer that. So that's an interesting question, because with the current user fees, first of all, if the kids need something, we're going to figure it out.
Sure,
I want to say it
sure,
that way. But second of all,
absolutely.
with the current user fee structure we have, yes. If we cut the user fees in half, it would take double the amount of kids that would enroll to get the projected revenue where it is now
Right.
to break even. Right, so the answer would be no, but we'd have to figure out a way to make sure, right, we can't have the enrollment double in athletics, which would be amazing, by the way, if we could do that.
But
then
at the
not have
same time,
equipment.
you have equipment for, using soccer as an example. We have equipment for 3 teams, middle school, JV, and varsity. We're not running all those, so we do have existing equipment that didn't dissipate
Right.
when we
In
dissipated.
some,
Football
in some
maybe
sports,
not.
yes.
I guess that's what I'm asking.
Agreed.
In football, our number from where we started to where we are now has significantly declined, so I think we
But
do
we probably
have
have
some
enough
of
field
that
hockey
stuff.
sticks to
Right.
have that men's team we didn't put.
That's exactly my question, though, is,
But we would also
even with
have-
football equipment, like, it does have to be inspected every so many
Refurbished, yeah.
years, so just,
Yep.
I don't want to end up with, I want as many kids as possible in the athletics programs, but I would hate to get there and then all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, we don't have helmets for
Would
everybody.
never let that happen, no.
And then there would be cuts, wouldn't there? I mean, at that
You would
point, you have
have
tryouts,
actual
and
tryouts.
there'd be
Might
actual,
actually
Yeah.
have a full
make the team
team.
or not, with the numbers.
Do we allow corporate sponsorships and selling of billboards to sponsor athletic programs and teams?
So, 6 or 7 years ago, we had asked the athletic director at the time to develop a plan. Do you remember this? To talk about that very thing. And we have, in my tenure, yet to see that plan.
Dr.
So-
DeFalco, can we make that happen?
Yes, we
So
can.
no, we don't have a sponsorship.
Because if we can get the athletic boosters or the band boosters or whomever to help sell sponsorships at the corporate level, then we can fund some of these programs through those sponsorships without raising fees to exorbitant levels.
100%.
We have to be creative if we want the athletes to participate.
I think we have to check two things. One is our policy, which obviously I don't know off the top
I
of my head.
just flagged that, yeah.
And second, MIAA rules on sponsorships of varsity teams.
Yeah, so we were looking.
I mean, it's different, I mean, if they want to just
We'll
put
do
a,
that.
put a sign on the fence, I think that's different than an actual sponsorship
No,
of a team.
we have a policy written about a sign on the fence too, and if we do.
I just don't know what it is
I don't
to
either.
speak to
Right,
it, but
and that was
I
the
think though
question.
you have to talk about
We'll
MIAA.
definitely take that on.
Yeah, and
Maybe
I
that
do
is something
think,
the boosters can do then without, not necessarily the school,
Right.
but the boosters.
I think
maybe.
on the heels of that, what may be helpful is perhaps, once we get some of that information, is possibly pulling the boosters together and having a meeting.
Do we have an overall athletic booster? Because I know we
No.
have
No,
Everybody's individual.
certain programs,
and they're
but there
all
are some
sort of-
programs that don't
Correct.
have it at all.
Right.
Correct.
So as I was a part of the beginning of softball boosters, and nobody knew what anybody else was doing for another sport. So I think if we can come up with something, it would be helpful to get everybody on the same page for that.
Sounds good.
And I just want to say again, I haven't heard of many people who do not play a sport because of money. We have a lot of parameters in place to allow families that don't have enough for those kids to play. I mean, my kids have been in athletics for six years and now done, but there were plenty of people on those teams who one would guess didn't have the $200 they needed, but they, through the district and
Yeah.
through other means, were taken care of. So just for the record, we have waivers for free and reduced lunch, we have waivers for this, and we have waivers for that. So I don't know that this is gonna solve our low numbers of athletics. I think if we pulled all the PS10s and whatever, all those game things out of people's houses, I think that would change our athletic numbers, just saying. But I'm okay with reducing it. And I guess to Amanda's question, those, do we address in whatever motion we ultimately make, that a portion of the money going to co-ops kind of go into your family cap? I don't know,
So it
I don't think that it's
can't. You'd have to
fair.
raise it, like you'd have to, so if Bellingham requires $1,000, I don't know what it is.
$350.
But let's say it's what?
$350.
$350, okay, I thought it was more, but anyway, so if
They
they
want it.
require $350 and they get $350, we can't say, well, that, 100 of that, I mean,
Is ours.
that's
Because we do the same thing when the football kids come in. We don't
Right.
give Hopedale money.
Oh, no, I'm not asking them for money.
You're saying
I'm just
just
saying,
have it count
for the sake of
towards-
your
Have it
internal
count.
mechanism, does it count towards your,
Have it
you're
count towards
playing
the
a
district
sport
cap. Right.
representing BMR? We're not getting your money, but should that count for something? That's the only, I mean, no, I get that it is what it is. They're incurring the fees, we're not.
We just take a little bit more of a hit on that total.
we would, yeah.
Yeah.
But if
See
you
what
have a
it-
cap, you haven't reached your cap yet, though, so you'd pay.
Yeah, you pay for
You
one
really
more
only-
sport.
you
You're going to
Really-
reach your cap by paying that
But if you
one
have,
fee.
it's more of a sibling. That one kid isn't
I
probably
was
going to
gonna
do
say,
it.
one kid
It's
never
when you have
gets through,
siblings.
because there's only 3 seasons, $200, you get to $600.
Yeah.
But when you have siblings, you then reach your max.
Real quick.
A year in the second season, you then get your max.
Your max there?
I have
Yeah, we hit our
2
max.
kids that played,
3 sports each.
Yep.
Or-
well,
Well,
You
you
have a
figure
fourth
last
season
year was
left.
the first year that a kid could play 4 full
Yeah.
sports, and Aiden chose to sit out, but playing 3 sports, we hit our cap.
Yep.
But because some money, all that money went to Bellingham, then I still had to pay over the cap. So I think
Right.
it cost me like 7 something,
Right.
something like that.
$750.
Well, we're lucky because the fees are cut for in here.
Yeah, right, but, okay. So I make a motion
Okay.
to
we already have
reduce, oh, I don't know, do we already start one?
We have to amend it, right?
Just to-
I don't know, what was the original one, Erin? Sorry.
No, just to, to open the discussion. to
Okay.
reduce the amount.
So I make a motion
Reduced amount.
to reduce the athletic and music fees by 50%. Is that too much? Well, you guys can amend it. And reduce the family cap
By 50.
to
50%.
500?
500.
500, no, what do you say? What do you guys-
It's
Still
650?
reduces it. It's 600 right now.
600?
When it's 200 per sport, the family cap has been 600. Last year, when we reduced it to 100 per sport, we
We
did the
went
family
to
cap at 300.
But do we have to do that?
No.
No,
No?
no.
Okay, so I say, I say 400. Go in the middle. So maybe less amendments.
Sarah, do you have any ideas on that?
Sarah doesn't want to, she's.
I'd like to see it at 300, but that's just me. I appreciate the decision. I'd like to see it eventually go down to 0, but I realize that would be like, it's better to do it gradually,
Yeah,
and I like the downward trend, so.
I like more gradual.
Thank you.
That seems like, 400 seems like,
Do we need a second before we amend?
I'll second. The 400, 50%, 400, I'll second.
All right, go ahead, guys.
Well, I was just going to say, why don't we keep it status quo with what we did do last year?
Right,
And
that's what I thought.
then it's not like this. Well, if we go up this year, and we were down last year, and we're sitting here saying, how do we get to 0? Raising any part of it, to me, kind of defeats the purpose of attracting kids to try
Right.
something new.
So do you need a motion to amend
Tammy, are you
the family
amenable to
cap to 300?
100 and 300?
Yeah.
Football, I think, is 300, right? So it'd be down to
Oh, right.
150, because it's the 50% is on the table, but.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Can we just add to
Cap
that,
with
which
football,
Huh?
is the same as last year?
So that's an interesting question, Jane. So football costs the most money,
Right.
and then they get $350 to their, they get what?
150, oh,
No,
It'd be
what's their
150.
current sport?
300.
300. So maybe, is their family cap higher, or they just benefit that way?
I think there's benefit. I think the family cap is flat across the board.
Right?
That's interesting.
I have to look at the papers.
So if,
Yeah,
so
their
if I
sport's more
play
expensive, so they
football,
need to pay more.
I pay $150.
Well, it's more expensive to
Let's-
us
At
as well.
this current rate.
Exactly.
I pay $150, and then I do I do basketball, so now I pay 100, so now I'm up to 250. And then I play tennis, because those go together. And
you
I
only
pay 50? And if I have a kid sister, a relative, sister, whatever, she does
cap out
everything.
early.
She's in the
free,
band.
squat.
Well, no, you
pay
pay for
nothing.
her for the first season. So you
Right,
pay for
eventually,
both
so-
kids
yeah.
for first season.
You're gonna pay
Then
more in the
second
fall.
season, you might hit that cap, so
But
you
if
pay
you're
a
in the
different.
band, I gotta pay another $100
No, it's the same cap.
or $75.
It's
Both
user
Oh, it's the
fee.
same
Band
thing.
and user.
User fee cap.
User fee.
Oh, then are we losing too much money?
But that's the way it's always been. That is how it has always been. And the family cap for band is the same, so they don't meet it if your child's only doing band. To get to that 600, if it's one kid by the end of the year, you're still paying.
You're still getting a
75.
discount from
Right,
what
but what
other
I'm
people
saying
are
is the
doing.
family cap,
Really?
Doesn't help with it.
That's
Yeah,
the
it
only
doesn't
way
help
sports
if
down
you're
south.
just band.
Well, it doesn't help
One
anyway if you
student.
have one kid.
Right.
Right.
Doesn't help if you have
Exactly.
one.
It's more of a sibling discount.
I don't know. I worry that 300, I worry we're gonna send Matt into the deep end.
Matt will say to you
Just for
He'll
the
make
record,
it
I
work.
said
exactly what I
4.
just said,
He'll
which
make it
is,
work.
we will figure it out.
yeah.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to maintain the fees we had last year. Is that right?
Motion on the floor is 50% and 400 family
Okay.
cap.
I like 400.
So a motion to amend to maintain last year's user fees as they stood at 50%.
All right, so your
You
amendment
mean
has to
family
be
cap.
100 and 300.
300. But
So-
I'm adding in there
But does
status
anybody
quo to
accept
last year.
your
Well, it's
amendment?
50%. You can't say
I'll
100
second
in
the
there.
amendment.
There's other
sports
sports that were
I'll second the amendment.
Okay,
50%.
so we're only discussing the amendment, because then that amends Tammy's, and so we're just, because it wasn't amenable to the person who made the motion, we have to pass the amendment first, if it or not. So the amendment we're discussing is a 50% reduction in fees, or keeping the same, which is a 50% reduction in fees and a cap of $300. there any discussion on that?
Besides the fact that I feel that that's too much of a hit on what's already
budget.
planned in our past budget.
I think the family cap should say 400.
Okay. So we're voting just on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Did someone second the
Aye.
amendment?
Yes, Tim did.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, just to the
So
amendment,
if you want the 400.
Nay.
Okay.
then
You
you're
would
voting
say nay. If you want the 300,
Thank
you
you.
would say yes.
Okay. So all those
Like negatives.
opposed, nay, nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so the amendment does not pass. So we still have the original motion on the floor, which is reducing the user fees in half with a family cap of $400. Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, so user fees for next year are the same that they were last year, but there's a family cap of $400.
400, I got it.
Got it? Got it,
Very good.
Monique? Thank you.
We're good to go.
I'm not sure I got it, so,
I've got it right here.
okay.
And Monique will tell you, when our boys played hockey, for BMR, we paid $500 per child.
Right, and that was in what year, Scott?
15 years ago.
Yeah.
There you go.
Have you heard
we're
what the
getting a
girls'
bargain.
hockey fee is for playing with Auburn?
What?
$1,200 for the
Well,
girls.
I thought somebody was something was $1,000.
Bellingham wants to raise
And our,
hockey to
our
750.
surrounding towns do not have small athletic fees in general
No.
either, so,
No.
just
it's
for the
expensive.
record. I mean, I think
remember
Uxbridge
because
is
they
trying to
wanted
save.
cancel the hockey program, so all of us parents got together and said, we're used to paying $1,000 to play for the Woonsocket North Stars, so
Exactly.
$500 is still,
Yep.
That's why I think, I agree with
Yeah.
that, Scott.
but we were able to save the BMR hockey
Bargain,
program.
you had to like
Yeah.
make the dance.
Fortunately, as Jason and I was discussing the other day, there's no more pride in playing for your schools anymore.
Nope.
Well, we need
Sadly.
better.
Fire that up.
Let's get
All
this
right,
done.
we are.
All right.
Fire it up.
Goal.
All right, so speaking of firing it up, school year opening, just some dates I want to share. We are really happy to be at this point in our planning. And I now have papers everywhere, so bear with me one second. So I've got so many notes that, okay, here we are.
And I'm like, they blew in the back this time.
Just want to share a few important dates, and I know principals will get this information out to everybody, but for our Meet the Teacher nights, I know that that's something that people like to talk about early and get on the calendar, but we are doing the JFK AFM Complex on September 15th at 6:30. Millville Elementary is on September 16th at 6:30. So the complex is the 15th, Millville is the 16th. The middle school is the 14th, September 14th at 6:30. And the high school is September 13th at 6:30. So you can see it's kind of rolling a series of nights there. We're trying to get information out even earlier, particularly this year because the elementary is emerging, so we know people are feeling a little angst around that. And the class lists are going to be released a week from today. I believe we had said the 12th for both elementary schools. So we're excited to be able to get that information out again, just so people can breathe a little bit and not feel so anxious about some of the transitions. We do we've set our parent-teacher conferences as well. And we're looking into November, so believe me, this information will go out multiple places, multiple times, but the complex will be November 4th and 10th. Millville will also be the 4th and the 10th, but they're at different times. The middle school will be the 17th and 18th, and the high school will also be the 17th and 18th of November. But again, they'll be at different times. So we'll get that information out. We have plenty of time. But I just wanted to make sure to put it out there that we do have all of those dates and times set. So if anybody's interested or learning more about that, by all means, reach out to the building principal. Yeah.
Is it possible to do parent-teacher virtually still? Because I think that was really helpful for schedules last year.
Yes.
So maybe, okay, good.
So we had a conversation in the spring about what were some of the like the good things that came out of all of that, and that was one of them.
Yeah, okay, good.
That we got really great feedback from families for the conferences to be able to do those virtually.
Yeah.
just made it easier for parents. If they're still at work, they could log in and not have to.
So they're all going to be virtual?
I don't know if they'll all be virtual,
all
but
right.
but I
think the
think,
option.
yeah.
Yeah, I like the option. I just
Yeah.
do think some people actually like to see people.
Yep.
If that's possible. I mean, by then, who knows where we're going to be at?
Right. Yeah,
We
good
might be
point.
locked in our closets again.
Good point. So just a little bit on dates, and then also backing that up, we have quite a few exciting things coming up in the next few weeks. We have our new staff orientation, which is August 19th and 20th. And to all of our committee members, anybody who wants to join us the morning of the 19th, that would be great. We're going to probably be in the auditorium because we will have all of our new staff, and we're inviting all of our paras and ABAs this year, which we're really excited about. So we're going to have all of our teacher support, new support staff, all of our educators, mentors, leadership team. So any of the committee that is available, it'd be great to have you there. Just would love to introduce you to the new staff.
What time is that?
We'll be starting at 8 o'clock on the 19th in the auditorium. We think the auditorium.
At the high school?
Yeah. So that's great. And we are doing the bus tours again, which I think really made a difference. If you talk to some of our folks who started 2 years ago, we did, Tim, we did bus tours of the community so they could see the neighborhoods and they could see all the local spots and where to get coffee and where the kids hang out and the Boys and Girls Club and all those things. It's just really important. It was really powerful for the staff to get a really good sense of our two towns. So we're going to be doing that again. And we will probably have it narrated by Keith and Neil, that was actually kind of hilarious, just listening to the two of them go back and forth. But that was a really great thing. So thank you to Telstone for that.
We get to go on that bus tour too.
Yeah, the bus tour.
Tickets available, I'll buy one.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome, actually, and it was a great way. The leadership team, we all jumped on too, and we're chatting with the new staff, and it was really nice. It was like a good community thing, and gave everybody a good sense of our two towns. So we have that to look forward to.
But you must wear your mask on the bus.
Yes. We have our leadership retreat on August 23rd and 24th. I do want to just share quickly, we had for the first time our partners forum yesterday. So, we work with Teachers 21 and Focus Schools. We do a little bit of work with New England Base Camp. That was Donna Stone, if you remember, the Portrait of the Graduate work. So we had coordinated a partners meeting with them. It was really important that each one of our groups understands the kind of the function of the other support that we have in place and what each of the organizations do for our teachers and our students in our district and how they intersect. And Jill and I have gotten quite a bit of feedback from the partners saying that this was unbelievable. We have such a good sense and handle on what's going on in the system. The vision is so much more clear. We totally get where you're going. And one partner said today, we work in multiple districts. We've never seen anything like that. And it's just how important it is to get everybody around the table that's in charge of the district improvement work. So that was super cool. And they will all be joining us at our Leadership Institute, which we're really looking forward to on the 23rd and 24th. Also, the week of the 23rd, so the 23rd through the 27th of August, we will have our Acceleration Academies. And those have come very nicely into play. So we will have a much smaller group of students than what we have in our summer programming now. But the Acceleration Academies were designed to be smaller groups. Classes of 12 or less, frankly, is how the grant's set up. So we do have students participating at every level. I will say to any of our high school families, particularly ninth graders going into 10th grade, if you have any interest, we have a lot of room there. We only have 6 students that parents have signed up, and that was actually through a lot of help from Jill and Lisa Rounds to get the families on board. So if anyone is listening from the high school or anybody, and we'll continue to reach out, but if parents are tuning in, we definitely have space, and it's free. We have transportation, we have breakfast, we have lunch, so we just need the kiddos.
Is there Jason, could you share like a little description of what that is, and then we can kind of post it around?
Absolutely. I can certainly do that.
Thank you.
The focus is on math, which maybe that's why it scared some people away. But I will tell you that Ethan Rowe is going to be teaching the course. So big shout out for Mr. Rowe. He's pretty awesome. And Jeff Curran's going to actually be running a current events, like a really hands-on, fun current events, like elective for the kids to break it up. So it's just not all math the whole time. And we'll be outside doing some physical fitness stuff. And so, again, just trying to get the kids back in the building, get them acclimated, excuse me. And,
Have we gotten any sense of the people who chose homeschooling not the people who chose remote, but homeschool? How many percentage of those that might be returning?
we did. So actually, Catherine in my office called every single family. And she did hear back. I can get the numbers to you in my update tomorrow, if that would be all right, because I don't have them in front of me.
Great.
School numbers. But we did reach out personally to each family.
Thank you for that.
Yep. And we heard back from quite a few. And what we did when we got the information was we relayed the information to the school administrative assistant to make sure that we put the schools directly in contact with the parent to help out with the registration. So we did that in the spring. I just don't remember the numbers. So lots of good stuff happening. And then, of course, the opening day, we have our optional planning day, August 30th. We have our welcome back in our first day of staff development on August 31st. We're doing that actually a little different. We're going to start in our individual buildings, but we're pulling the faculty together around noon for a luncheon, teacher recognition, and we're going to have students doing some different types of music performances and speaking a little bit about the teachers. So we're really excited to be doing that kind of opening in a different way. Really sharing and showing the value to our educators, but having them hear from our students directly, which I think is pretty powerful. And then, of course, our students are back on September 2nd.
I do have a question. Is there going to be an open door day? There was a parent that did ask that question.
Here,
Here and at the high school.
they do them here, and there's a freshman orientation.
Okay.
The open door days, I think that Miss Kurt's calling, she's doing a couple different things. She's doing popsicles with the principal. I don't know if you've seen the signs or heard anything about that. And then she is doing an open door day for the kids to come in. I think they get their schedules in their locker and
lockers,
all
yeah.
of that.
Are
Yep.
we using lockers this year?
I believe so. I believe so. That may be a policy thing
have
we
to
have on
look.
our August 19th meeting.
Look at the guideline.
And so at the high school,
Freshman orientation.
Yes.
now, there was a parent that did ask also about their students going to be an incoming sophomore who did not attend last year.
It would be, so we reached out to all of those parents.
Okay.
First and asked if they would be interested in participating in that Acceleration Academy. Our goal was to get, at the high school, all of our full remote students first. And then we reached out to students that had math semester 1 of freshman year, because they wouldn't have had it, right, from like January, the end of January till September, because of the block schedule. So we invited them next to give them a jump start in the mathematics, since that was the focus. We got 6 kids out of that outreach. So certainly we'll try it again, but I would urge, Amanda, if you want to put that parent in touch with either Jill or myself.
Okay.
Because there is an opportunity for that student to come back and,
Okay. I know they were saying, like, what does the school look like? Where's,
So
Yeah,
will
just an
they be
orientation
invited
day.
to freshman orientation, the 10th graders that have never been here?
we did not include them, but we certainly could. I could talk to Ms. Fowles about that.
okay.
I know, when you say Jill, I always think Jill
Jill
PG,
PG,
and
yeah.
I'm like, she's involved in so much.
That's a great idea, the remote freshman.
Or even a sophomore orientation, because they didn't get one.
Yeah,
They didn't.
exactly.
True.
Sure. Okay,
A dance. Sorry.
great point. We'll add that. Okay. Yeah, and then again on the second, they will be returning. Looking forward to
Yeah,
that.
let's roll.
We're ready to go. The next item on the agenda is I am requesting an increase in our permanent sub, and I want to make sure I'm clear on what that is. We have day-to-day subs that they're currently are at a $75 a day rate. The permanent sub, each building has one, and they come every day. And so we wanted to increase that rate to 85 just a day. It's not a huge difference, but it gives a little bit of an incentive. And we're talking about 4 individuals, because there's one in each building. So that is not a heavy lift. It's something that we can work within our budget to do. But wanted to bring that forward to the committee for their review and hopefully approval.
Make a motion to approve the increase to $85.
Second.
Permanent subs, second. By Amanda, okay. Is there any discussion?
What, so did you say 6 people, Jason?
4.
Oh, 4 people?
Yep.
1 per building.
Is there a number attached to that? What does it put in the budget? I don't want to take out my phone to use it as a calculator. Now I'm like
$40.
so freaked out about this. Times
day.
180?
It's 40 times
5 times
180.
180.
Yep.
40 times 180.
What's that, under $8,000 or something?
Sure.
I'm doing fast math, but I think it's somewhere around there, yeah.
Thank you.
So my question is, with the tight budget lines that we have, where's the money going to come from?
I don't have that answer for you.
Without pulling it out of educational, the expenditures, where's it going to come from?
Yeah, we'll have to find it. We can let you know. But I know when I discussed this with Matt, he had an idea of where he could take that from. If he was here, he probably would be able to answer it. So I'll find that out. I can put that in the update. Just make a note of that. Okay. So we'll get that to the committee tomorrow. All right.
Anyone else have any comments?
I know that you're a master at finding things, so.
Well, $7,200.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was around. Okay.
And let us not forget, it's approximately a 6-hour workday, and they don't get a prep time, and a this time, and a that time, and
It only comes out to about $14.
I was gonna say, it's only about,
I had to do old math.
$13.50, but, yeah.
Without my calculator.
About $14 an hour, so, yeah.
So, can I just ask why we're not doing the day-to-day subs? At that rate?
Because if you remember, our subline is always not very good, and I don't think we could afford to, even though we should.
It was, yeah, that's a much bigger budget piece.
Yeah.
So we thought we could manage the permanent subs without having put it in advance, but the general subline we thought that'd be a heavier lift, financially speaking.
And they're not in a unit,
No,
correct?
right,
So they're not even subject to the COLAs or
Right.
that's right,
75.
for a long time.
yeah.
Anyone else? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Oh. You guys did this to me last time, so sorry, Sarah. Anybody abstaining? Okay, so that motion passes.
Thank you. Next, the report of the business office.
Actually, can I hold for a second?
Of course.
We've had somebody else join our meeting. Did you have something you wanted to address to the committee, or just sitting here of interest?
I'm just paying attention.
I think that's awesome. Thank you for attending our meeting.
Should be a lot more.
Should be a lot more, I agree. All right, going on to Matt's report.
Yes. So in your packet, you have the total revenue, expenditure, personnel update, and then a personnel report update on a few specific items. So we can walk through those. The first on the revenues, that is, I have it here, from July 1st to August 3rd. And you can see our revenues are coming in as scheduled. So there's, as usual, the first financial report, there's not a lot to share out because we're just getting the fiscal year rolling. But all finances are coming in as scheduled in the first quarter. Our expenditures, you can see, is set up, again, July 1 through August 3rd. You will see by the end of the summer, particularly in the curriculum and supplies and resources and materials, because a lot of that material is ordered right in the very beginning so that we have everything ready to roll. But you'll see that money encumbered and then expended by the end of the summer. But you can see there's some activity that has happened. But again, it being the first report, it doesn't really give any clear indicators of much at this point, other than what we've budgeted encumbered to date, and then what's available. Because you notice the expenditure line, there's so few, there's a lot of zeros. Not much has been expended in quite a few of the lines. So I'll give you a minute to look over that and see if there are any questions on revenues or expenditures. I will tell you that, share with you that we just learned our Title I funds, I'm noticing are listed here at 170, 610. Those came in just over 211,000. So we actually did see a small increase in our Title I funding of about 40,000, which is great. I don't know if we can use that for the subs, Tim. I'm not sure where Matt had earmarked that money from, but
That's fine.
we'll find it.
I know we'll find the money. It's
For
just-
sure.
I want to be conscious of what we're spending.
Of course. Yep.
I know. I'm like, wait.
So that, I'm sure Matt will be updating that. We just were made aware of that this week. So.
He has it on the last
Has it on the
column.
right.
Oh, did he already note
Updated
it?
on here,
Under
yeah.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Grant fund expenditure review.
He's good. Any questions on expenditures and revenues? All right, our personnel update, that is just to be received and placed on file, but we did include our July 1st. You notice there are two, July 1st and August. All of our resignations, appointments, and the July 1st one was sent to the school committee a couple of weeks ago in a weekly update. I think you had requests getting it sooner than later, so we just wanted to make sure we had it in the packet too.
So with these, if I may ask, are we short the instructional staff?
Yeah, so we have been hiring quite a bit, doing a lot of interviewing, a lot of screening. I think where we are now, the big area that we're still looking to fill was special ed. And we had done a lot of work, if you remember in the spring, I actually sat here, I think in June or May, and was touting the work that the teams had done to fill those positions. Unfortunately, what some folks will do is take a position and they'll continue to interview. And then they find something where they can, either closer to home, or that was the situation we had happen, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. Or it's $5,000 more, so they take the job and they let us know. And unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do to hold them to that. So we had that situation happen. We also had a couple of last-minute resignations. We had a licensure situation that needed to be squared away, and one of our faculty, who's just been incredible, but sold his family home in the area, moved to the Cape. So, which we could do with that, but yeah, that's too long. And it was funny. He actually said the drive would be too long. Said, you really considered that? That's like a 2-hour ride. So we're back to the drawing board with a few positions. But Jill PG has been working very closely with Jill Fowlis and the rest of the principals to help make sure that all those vacancies are full. And I do feel like we're constantly interviewing for paraprofessionals. Seems to be always seems to have vacancies in that area.
I feel like world language is our other, or, we have Spanish, but it's another one that's hard to fill these days.
It is. Underneath our personnel report, just wanted to take a moment and reintroduce, because everybody certainly knows Scott. But Scott, if you want to join us up front, Scott is going to be our interim facilities director for this year. And we're very pleased to have him taking the reins on our facilities work.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Scott Hebert. I'm a Blackstone Town resident and have been for 32 years. I've worked with the district of Blackstone Millville Regional Schools for 21 years. I'd like to thank Jason DeFalco, Matt Aronsworth, and the school committee for this opportunity. Looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great challenge, and looking forward to continuing to grow with the district.
And we have a meeting on August 17th.
I'll be here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah will be your new best friend, but she will come back out from the computer, so. But Scott, thank
Speaking
you.
of best friends during the return and recovery.
Yes.
Love that.
We're excited to have you in the role,
Yes,
Scott.
we are, Scott.
And
It'll be a good partnership.
And he's already hit the ground running. We did, Matt, Scott, and I did some grounds, we did some walking of the grounds earlier this week to lay out some different plans and make sure we've got everything looking the way it needs to.
I have a minor request.
Sure.
The front of the high school sign, could we trim those bushes so you can actually see the name of it?
Scott, please share with you what I said.
I'm sorry, I just happened to come by. I was like, you can't even see what school it is. The bushes are all over the place.
Yes, so we discussed
Sorry.
that on our grounds
Oh,
walk.
good. I'm
And,
glad it wasn't me.
we have
the
the
hedge
same eyes,
trimmer,
Amy.
the gas-powered hedge trimmer blew up on us. So we're in the process of getting a new one, and like everything else, it's
Back order.
back ordered. Still being made somewhere, probably in China, I'm not sure, but, yeah. And also, I'd like to get underneath the pine trees cut again, so you can see the building as you're driving by again. I think that's important, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll get it
Sorry,
back.
it's just
Courtyard
something,
and-
I
we've
actually
got
almost
big-
sent an email, and I was like, oh, this is not email worthy, but instead I'm going to present it in
It
public.
is, what did I, Scott, what did I say? That was one of the first things I said when we got to the high school.
just
I'm like,
so
you cannot even
noticeable.
see what the sign
Not-
says.
Right,
Right.
and it's a beautiful stone sign.
It is.
Not just the stone sign, but when you round the corner coming down Lincoln Street, all you see is this big weed in front of the sign that was donated
get out
by
of
one
there.
of the classes, so you can't even see what's
weed.
posted on that board. So that will be taken care of.
Thank
definitely.
you.
So while we have your attention, I'm going to ask about the athletic grounds and what we've agreed to have done. Can you provide an update with that, or were you going to do that?
I can do that. Yeah, Scott may
Okay,
not
so-
have that info
Next
yet.
piece of paper.
Yeah.
My start date is actually August 16th, so I'm still trying to get this fabulous building ready for the opening of
There's his
school,
out.
but I'm kind of doing both roles at the same time, but I have not been filled in on any of the athletic fields.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great, because I'm,
We'll give you a copy.
When I was the
Stickler.
groundskeeper, I had great pride in those fields, and
Yeah.
looking forward to bringing them back.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Scott.
I think Scott's pride in the district, in our buildings and our grounds, that is a perfect fit for him.
Yes.
And for all of us moving forward.
Yes, I'll just add, I was the groundskeeper for 3 years before taking on the head custodian for this building.
Okay,
Well, I
great.
think one of the strengths is that. You know what needs to happen within the buildings, you've done grounds work, you've got the big picture, kind of macro vision of what we need, and I think that will
Everything,
make a
yeah.
difference. Yeah. We're happy to have you in the role.
And we all know him by name. Cheers. Poor Scott.
Yep.
He's like, I ain't going to
Be
school
afraid to stop me and say hi and make recommendations
He'll
and
be hiding in the bushes.
Well, sadly for you, but you're always at these meetings anyway. I was gonna say, sadly for you, you've signed up for some more late-night meetings, but you're always here anyway, so.
Well, I did ask the question at my interview, would I have to attend all the meetings? And I was
Not
told no.
Not all.
Not all.
No, again, I'm either here to lock up or open up for
Yeah.
you to get in, so whatever
Not
ones I can
anymore.
make, I'll be glad to make. And
Not anymore,
try not
you
to
have
add
people for
my
that.
2 cents all the time.
We're happy you're here.
We appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
So on to your question. Absolutely. So if you look at the facilities update, actually, you know what? Before, just quickly on the social worker, I'm very happy to say we are working with a finalist, and hopefully things will be solidified by tomorrow. So we have, the committee has done some excellent work.
Thank you, Jill.
We have screened some really good people. We have a couple of strong finalists, as a matter of fact, but there's one in particular we're working with. So I hope I have some good news for the committee either in tomorrow's update or shortly thereafter.
And this is the full year person?
yeah.
Okay. Thank
Really
you.
excited. Yeah. I think it'll be a great addition. Now onto the facilities updates. So on your facilities project overview, you can see the work on the fields. what you probably have noticed is if you look at, for instance, the baseball, softball field, we've listed who's doing the work, when the work is going to happen, and the estimated completion date. So you can see that a lot of the outside work has all been scheduled, and then we are hoping that things will be done and in place by early to mid-fall. If you look at the baseball, softball fields, we're thinking the end of October. The tennis courts and the track area, the beginning of September. So again, this is just kind of a high level who's doing it and when we're expecting to have the work completed. At the high school, we're very pleased that all of the camera and security system work is done. Everything actually was finished by the end of July. So we're really happy about that. For our safety vestibules, the designs are finished, all the glass is in, which is great. We were worried that that was going to be where the delay was, but the glass is actually in already. And the frames should be shipped on the 9th, which is Monday. So Matt and I have already had some conversation, and I believe he mentioned this to the committee too prior, but if we can't have the safety vestibules finalized by the opening of this school year, they're going to go to second shift to do the work so that does not get in the way of normal operations of the building. And then the safety laminate, other than the new safety vestibules that are not yet installed, the safety laminate on the other buildings have been installed. And you wouldn't even notice it. It's clear. Actually, Scott and I were coming. We thought it was going to be opaque. We thought it'd be something you'd actually see, but it's not. So that has been installed, which is, I think, is a huge win for our safety and security at our entrance areas. So we're happy about that as well, having that done. Are there any specific questions that I can do my best to answer those?
What you didn't note in here is the paving at the complex.
That is correct. We did not note the paving at the complex. We are incredibly grateful that that was done. They're just about finished. And when you talk about the outside and you talk about kind of curb appeal, what a difference. It looks beautiful. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Tim. Thank you, because we were really grateful to the town for getting that done for us.
Yeah, and fixing that big puddle out back.
It looks so nice.
They graded that right, so.
It
Looks
does
great.
definitely look so much better.
Yeah.
So now, right, so you take that and then you couple it with the other projects that we're going to be doing around cleaning up brush and weed whacking and flower barrels and redoing the courtyard at the high school, remulching and cleaning all that out. It is
Careful,
going
there's
to.
bees in there.
We already we're poking around.
Sarah and I fought the
No,
bees
but we found
2
a
years
dead one.
ago.
We found a dead nest when we were playing
She
around
got
with the caps on
stung.
the lights. Yeah.
Yep.
We were out there poking around Tuesday. But that stuff matters. It makes such a big difference when you drive
does.
by, and we've been talking about that, and the facilities just look really nice and really well put together. The second part of our facilities report is much more of a heavy topic, and I actually want to read the memo that Matt put together into the record, into the community, into the committee, just to make sure that I get the language right, because I do think this is very important, given the issue of the situation here at the high school. And so Matt had put together a memo dated August 5th regarding facilities work at the high school. Recently, the Department of Labor Services, or DLS, has visited the high school. As many people are aware, the high school has fireproofing insulation spray around pipes in the ceiling that contains asbestos material. And we've known that. That isn't right. That's nothing new. And we've been monitoring that for years, frankly. But after a visit, DLS informed the district of recommended steps to ensure that the building remains safe for all students and faculty. Under the guidance of DLS, the district engaged Universal Environmental Consultants, or UEC, to assist with the process of addressing the concerns brought forward by DLS. The proposal before you, which is the attached, the proposal before you indicates the scope of work that UEC is proposing to complete in order to satisfy the requirements of DLS. Again, DLS, Department of Labor Services. DLS has agreed that the scope of work proposed will meet their expectations to allow the building to be safely occupied. The purpose of the work is to remove any asbestos-containing material that may have fallen off the pipes onto the top of the ceiling tiles and replace the ceiling tiles with new ones, ensuring a proper shield from any asbestos-containing material. I would like to ask that after review of the included scope of work, the committee move the following in order to allow work on this project to begin as promptly as possible. And so what is attached to Matt's memo is an overview of the scope of work that UEC put together as required by the Department of Labor standards. And you will see a 3-year plan outlined around asbestos abatement, specifically for that one issue. And summer of 2021, they are looking for work done that will total $22,500 with a monitoring cost of $9,800.
Okay. So those two numbers have to go together.
That's right.
Not one or the other, or, so it's
It's the 22,500 plus the 9,800. Then in summer of '22, there is a cost of work that will be at the total of $195,000 plus $28,000 of monitoring and air sampling. And then of summer of '23, $175,000 for their scope of services, scope of work, and then a $26,500 monitoring fee. This is one of the reasons we had stated that joint meeting with the towns would be really important, because we want to make sure to share this with them. Tammy, go ahead.
I have a clarifying question. I don't know much about this stuff. So in the memo, it says that the high school has fireproofing insulation spray around the pipes in the ceiling that contains the asbestos. So right now, that is on this, falling on, they're saying it's falling onto the current ceiling tiles. So why would just replacing ceiling tiles solve the problem? Why, wouldn't you have to take it off the pipes?
Part of it is
Thinking to.
Part of it, if I recall the scope
Isn't
of
it
work
gonna
correctly,
fall?
part of it is also, I believe, to do some of the insulation of
some of the
that.
abatement.
Okay, because wouldn't it just fall on the new ceiling tiles? Why does that protect us anymore?
It isn't just,
I don't know, I
yeah,
guess
it's
I
not
have to,
just
like,
see it.
it isn't just the removal of the ceiling tiles.
If I may, when we did a walkthrough last week, some of the older ceiling tiles are sagging, so they leave a gap in the tile, which allows the dust to fall out of the ceiling. So, or they're cracked, so that's why they gotta put all new ceiling tiles.
But, so I guess is that, but you're still gonna leave the asbestos up there to fall on the new ceiling tiles?
That's what it sounds like.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Essentially,
They're
yes.
saying that right now.
Essentially, yes, because so you'll abate what you can, you'll clean what you can.
Yep.
But if you're talking about complete removal of the asbestos that is within the building, you're talking about shuttering your building.
It doesn't happen
That's
until
summer
next summer and
22,
the summer
yeah.
after.
For
So this
one
sounds
Okay.
like
So right now, we're gonna seal it up.
it's just the
damaged ones.
the
Sure.
damaged
Throughout the
ones.
whole
Okay.
building.
But
my-
eventually, we're gonna,
So one of the
we're
things
looking
that
to
I
take care of
said
it.
to Jason, and one of the reasons that I think it's important to bring the groups together with the capital committee, is I think this is a capital project, even though we have other capital projects on the books, Sarah, and I'm not ignoring those. Because essentially DLS cited us. You do the work or you don't get to use the building. And they were willing to compromise in that over a 3-year time. And they were willing to compromise, and the committee say, we'll commit to trying to get it. I mean, we can't commit to a budget for next year. We don't, the towns do that. And so we have to get the towns to say, we need to do this work or we don't get access to the high school. But I think in a capital way, so that so that it can be financed differently, because if we put it into our school budget and we have to take $200 and something thousand out of our, I mean, that's impact to learning. So I think we need some really strong discussions to start happening in order to even do motion number 2 and motion number 3.
Yeah, we can only really approve.
All we can
Summer
approve
of
now is motion
2021.
number 1. Well, we can approve the motions, but, because motion 2 and 3 says we're going to talk about it.
Okay, I didn't read the motion.
Oh, well.
Yeah, the commitment we're making is
So right
to-
now, it's 23.3.
2021 is the motion, yeah.
In looking at the numbers, we're talking about $500,000 over the next 3 years.
Right.
That's got to be a capital expenditure.
Got to be.
And we can't take that out of our educational funds.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
And there's no way we could budget $225,000 for next year for that remediation.
No.
And
All right,
how are
you
we
had a
going to
question.
do
This
23.3?
is in addition to the facility study?
Yep.
Findings of the.
Yep.
Oh, my lord, okay.
Yeah.
So was this a
Exactly.
planned visit from DLS?
Planned, and
Did we
what-
know they were coming? Is this, why did they visit us?
I think it was part of their, like, their schedule, their rotation. We've been, each year for quite some time, the custodians at the high school have been, at least the head custodian has been getting certified in
As a
asbestos
abatement, yeah.
management.
Yep.
So it's not, I mean, it's a well-known
Yep.
issue.
Yeah.
That we've been
Have it in
working
the
on. Yeah.
city contract and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
My concern is, from what I understand about the asbestos anywhere, is that so removing a ceiling tile is you're
Disturbing it.
disturbing it, encapsulating it, when right now it's kind of encapsulated in those ceilings.
But it
So-
is-
Except in the
but like-
cracks.
Yeah, Scott just said some of them are
Running through the
open, so it's
cracks.
coming.
So this $22,500 is going to cover cleaning the classroom after they've disrupted the ceiling
Well,
tiles in
that's what the
said
extra
room?
9,800 is essentially.
Yeah,
Making sure
it's-
we have the right air quality and the right.
Yep.
It's a total cost of $32,300 for this
Monitor.
summer.
This project, yep,
And it's something that we have to get done before school starts.
Correct.
that is right.
But this actually, so it says new tiles to be provided by the school department. So is that not included in the 22.5?
The new ceiling tiles?
It says the
Yeah,
scope
that is just for the
includes,
removal. That's just for the,
that's not the price of the new.
Scott, how much is a ceiling tile for the?
It's
If
$10.
he gets it at
I mean, it's
Boschman
not,
Lumber.
yeah.
Probably $5.
Okay, so that's not a significant cost.
Quite a few ceiling tiles down there.
It just looks significant in the following summers because we're doing,
Oh,
it says
sure.
all of B wing, all of C wing.
Yep,
Actually, first floor, it's only one floor.
Well, this
First
might be
floor.
something to bring up with our subcommittee, too.
well, I think that's the bigger issue,
I think,
is where
yeah.
does this live in a
Those
larger
next 2 years.
scheme of things? Mhm.
So I assume we're buying the ceiling tiles and they're putting them in place?
That's what it sounds like.
Yes.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Jane.
Go ahead, Sarah.
So do we just make the first part of the motion on the work that needs to be done this summer and then have the joint meeting?
So DLS has indicated, I assume, well, in their letters, but it's
Yep.
Matt and Jason, that we have to fix this problem. And originally,
Okay.
their solution was, you have to fix this, we'll give you 3 years, but you have to fix this problem. So they wanted, my understanding is, DLS wanted a financial commitment for the 3 years. And Dr. DeFalco and Mr. Aaronworth went back and said, we can't commit dollars because school
Right.
districts don't direct budgets, towns do. So we don't have the ability, so they negotiated with DLS, the item number 2 and item number 3, which I don't know if you have, Sarah. So, but motion number 2 says, authorize the district to include the work outlined in summers of 22 and 23 in the budgets for each year and engage in the work contingent on the passage of the budget.
Oh, okay,
So-
I see that now.
But what I'm saying is, not in the general revenue budget, I would like to negotiate with the towns that it be a capital expense. But that impacts
Right.
all the work that you're doing on your capital planning committee.
Yeah.
Tammy, yeah.
This second
Eyes
line
crossed.
kind of scares me. I don't, it looks, I mean, I'm reading this to say, I mean, I think Matt tried to kind of fix it by doing work contingent upon the passage of each budget. But
That was a back and forth.
I'm like,
DLS.
that
So bottom line.
sounds like a big commitment that I'm going to make, potentially not being on the committee, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, but you do that you do that anyway. I mean, you do
well,
that every
but that's
time.
a lot of money to be voting on today
But,
for
you
2
know-
years from now.
Well, all you're doing is saying we commit to trying to get the towns to do it. That's all you're saying. But the plain fact of the matter is we have to do more than commit to get the towns to do it. We have to get the towns to do it because then we don't have a high school. Because DLS has said, yeah, we'll take the wording for these, but they haven't said, yes, if you don't get the money, we won't require the work. So, you know, if they're gonna close us down this year if we don't do A, they're gonna close us down next year if we don't do B, and they're gonna close us down the last year if we don't do C. So, I mean,
Okay,
that's
let me throw this out.
go.
We were talking about the coronavirus earlier and the health of the kids. How can we not talk about asbestos removal
Yeah.
and the health of kids and staff
Yeah.
and say we can't afford it?
Right.
We cannot not afford it.
Yep. Agreed.
But does it go in our budget is the question.
What?
But does it go in our budget is the
That's-
question.
That's what we have to work with the towns on.
We won't
Right.
know until we get the towns to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Right, I understand that, but we're moving to authorize to put it in the budget, which is, I would assume, the budget is our budget.
Do we have a choice?
Yes, we can wait to talk to the capital outlay committees and
My
go that way.
question goes to, do we have a choice in whether or not we do the work?
No, but it depends on whose budget it's going in.
Yeah, but it doesn't, but this says the passage of each budget, it doesn't say what budget. It could be the town budget, it could be the school budget, it could be the capital budget.
So trying to
Doesn't
make
say the
sure
budget,
it's
Tammy.
foggy.
So we're voting on the town
voting-
budgets here? That's a little
We are
shaky.
voting to say that we
To
will
bring
be
it to the-
advocates for getting this work
Yes,
done.
that is how we
That's
frame the
what we're
language.
voting.
Because we
will
can't commit the
advocate-
money.
We can't commit to anybody out of any budget. So we're
Right,
committing
that is
to-
my point.
We're committing
Yes.
to trying to get this covered.
Contingent on the passage of the budget is what protects.
Each budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what gets.
I'm not saying we don't fix this, I'm just saying that we have a process for budget, and
Yeah.
it's not to
Sure.
Yeah.
approve $500,000 willy-nilly today without our options.
But we do have the ability to approve.
But we have to keep it open.
5 plus 9/8.
So where would that
32.30.
come from, Jason?
32 what?
32.3.
32.3.
Do we have a plan on where that comes from?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And that would be?
I'll have to ask Matt.
This is like the go ask dad.
Yeah.
Yes, you can go to the movies, but go ask dad for the money. Okay. All right. Okay, so would anybody like to make that first motion?
I'll make the motion to move to authorize the district to engage in all consulting, monitoring services, ceiling tile work for summer 2021 as outlined in the UEC proposal, and further move to authorize the district to include the work outlined for summers 2022, 2023 in budgets of each year and engage the work contingent upon the passage of each budget.
We did both at once, and that is perfectly fine. Would somebody like to second both of those?
Second.
That whole thing.
Second.
Okay, Amanda, thank you. So, there's been a motion to authorize the district to engage in all consulting and monitoring service and ceiling tile work for the summer of 2021, as outlined in the UEC proposal, which is a $22,500 summer of 2021 fee, which includes the removal and replacement of significantly damaged ceiling tiles, removal of asbestos debris on top, and repair, patching of damaged ceiling tiles and other related work, and to monitor and air sample that process that goes on for $22,500 plus $9,800. And then to try to get into, and then to further authorize the district to include the work outlined for summers 2022 and 2023 in the budgets for each of those upcoming years, whether that be capital or general, but to engage the work contingent upon the passage of those budgets. And that work would be in the summer of 2022, $195,000 for the work, $28,000 for the monitoring. In the summer of 2023, $175,000 for the work and $26,500 for the monitoring. Is there any discussion?
I was thinking as you were reading that, the work is outlined, but let's see. Okay, removal and replacement. My question is materials. It does not outline that
It
the
says
materials.
materials provided by the school department.
It only says that for the first one.
Only for the first one.
That's only in the first one. So where are the materials going to be provided for the next 2 years?
It does say the work will be publicly bid and advertised per chapter 149, but would that be materials as well?
I do not think this includes the costs for the replacement materials. I don't.
Well, then before we work with the towns on budget, that doesn't impact the motion to make sure that we get it in the budget, we'd have to know what those prices are as
Yep.
well.
Are we sure we can get this done before September 7th?
That was my question.
Or actually sooner than that, you have kids coming in
Yes.
on, oh,
23rd.
you actually just invited
Yeah,
us
kids
for
night.
August 19th.
Yep. Yep.
So,
And it's the 5th.
do we know where this is in the building? That they're going to hit this summer?
Mhm.
Because
They've already done
the-
they've already done the walk. They've already done the walkthrough.
Because the summer 22, 23, it says specifically what
Yep.
wings, but from now until
So if you read the second part.
September
If you
2nd?
read the second part, there's the detail for what would happen this year.
So they're ready, though, to hit the ground running on this as soon as we
You just have
soon
to
as
yes.
give the
approve.
thumbs up. Yep.
Yep.
I just feel like we're opening that stuff at the wrong time.
Doesn't sound like we have a choice, otherwise
We don't have a
we get the
choice.
building closed.
We don't have we have a closed building or a delayed start. If it doesn't work, doesn't get done in time, whatever, or certain wings that'll be portioned off but we don't have a choice. That's my,
We need to get the work done. mean,
I agree with you.
That's the headline on that.
I mean, we've started these conversations in our capital meeting with, it almost feels like this would kind of fit on why we'd need to be accelerated in our facilities projects.
To move that project along quicker.
So, I mean, it's not just 22,500, it's not 32,300. The next 2 years are significantly more of a commitment to possibly a building that we are possibly talking about.
But I think those factors all play into that next step. And so playing, the kind of what if game, if you're looking at a scenario where the high school design and facility itself could look very different by summer of '23. We don't know yet. But
Even if we were to move forward to replacing the building, it's going to take 5 years before we get something designed and groundbreaking and everything else done. We've got 3 to 5 years of students being in the building with health risk from asbestos.
Well, the other part is typically, too, if that building gets reworked or redesigned, we have an even bigger abatement project.
Correct.
Because
it's
it's going to have to be dealt with one way or the other.
Or should they even be in there while we're working on a new project?
Right.
I mean, that would come into the conversation if it's that large of an abatement.
The DLS was very clear that the building is safe for the kids to be in and the staff to be in. But we need to take these steps in order to continue with that.
Okay.
So,
I don't think we have an option on that. I mean, I don't,
Anyone else?
I'm trying to love
All
the
those in
language.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Both pieces of that motion.
that concludes our reports,
Okay.
all of our
I
reports.
agree with that.
Any school committee items? All right. Okay. So our next meeting is August 19th at 6, well, hopefully August 18th at 6 PM for a joint meeting, and then August 19th at 6 PM for our next school committee meeting. All right, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Moved by Kara, second by Tammy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.